All right. What's up, everybody? How you doing out there? Welcome back to the show. This is last week's fights. My name is Thinker St. James, and today we are going to catch you up on the state of the divisions in the UFC and take a look at UFC Fight Night Dern versus Ribas 2. And to do all of that with me, as always, my co-host, my good friend, the Ohio player, a man who braved the tundras, the icy Arctic wilderness of Ohio to be here today. Chase Parton, how you doing, brother?
Oh, I'm living it up. I couldn't miss another episode last week. That sickness, it tried to take me out. And this week, like you said, the storms coming in Ohio, ridiculous. So I can't tell you how important it is that I'm here right now. Like you guys, you just don't know.
Absolutely. Glad to have you back. Apparently, the sickness and storms were so bad it froze off your mustache, I see. Is that the case?
That's what happened. Icicles formed and they just decided to fall off.
Cracked it right off there. Well, good to have you back, sir, and Happy New Year to you and to everybody out there. This, of course, is the first show of the year. And to start it off, we figured that we would take a look at the divisions in the UFC just to see where everything is, get a lay of the land, kind of go through it a little bit as to who the champion is, somewhat of the top five from each, and then we can just have an understanding of where everything is now so that as you go into 2025, you'll know where the divisions are and then see how they shake up throughout this year. So to starting off at flyweight, the champion is Alexandre Pantoja. In the number one slot, you got Brandon Royval. Number two is Brandon Moreno. Three is Amir Albazi. Four is Kai Kara France. And five is Tatsuro Taira. Of course, Alexandre Pantoja just defeated the Ryzen star Kai Asakura to retain his title. What are you thinking about flyweight right now, Chase?
Flyweight right now, I've been saying it since, the last two matchups that we had between one and two, not between them, obviously, but, we had Royval versus Tatsuro, and that was such an important performance because Royval proved like, yo, when it comes to great grapplers, I may not be the best, but when it gets down to it, I can come out on top and I can show that the striking still has levels to it. And then you got Moreno coming off a big break. He really showed some great levels to the striking against Amir Albazi. And then I just wish that those two would match up. I know that's not what's going to happen, but after those lightning performances between them, I don't know why they didn't put those against each other. Like, that is ridiculous. So that's just me.
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking about. If you've been listening to the show for any length of time, you'll know that flyweight, in our opinion, is definitely one of, if not the most competitive division, and it's because of a lot of these guys that are at the top. Those performances that Chase was talking about. I mean, the Tyra versus Royval fight was so important to the division because it shows the levels that the division has between these top five guys and everything else underneath it. So you're going to see a lot of kind of the merry-go-round going on at the top right now because these high-level guys in this division are that far above everybody else, but there are some killers coming up underneath it. So right now, you're probably going to have a little bit of a gridlock because Alexandre Pantoja just retains his dominance there, especially after beating Kai Asakura. But these other guys are gunning for him, and they're we're just gonna have to see what the matchmaking ends up looking like to see where that shakes out because any one of those guys, pretty much, at least in the top three as far as champion and one and two, could be in that champion position at any given time. It feels like right now.
Yeah, and you talked about Kai. He really did take a big jump. I know, obviously, the big jump going to the title fight, not even being in the promotion, but like landing in at the bottom of the rankings. What was it? I think, let me see. He landed at 14, so he's just right
Yeah,
above Josh Van. We won't go
yeah.
into that right now, but and then you got Tatsuro landing at five, after going against the number one contender, that is pretty crazy too. He had a big jump in the matchmaking, but I think those two spots, like I think those what stand out to me as just like they landed really high after the performances, which is really good to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, Tyra, like you said, it was a big jump. Um, I don't think that there's any reason to think that he should be counted out in any respect based on the performance that he had with Royval. Royval showed that he is the dog that a lot of people were hoping that he was going to be, taken out what was a very surging prospect in Tyra. But Tyra's still, he's young, he's learning. He's the fact that he is where he's at now at such a young age really shows that he's a force to be reckoned with as well. Amir Albazi, I think, is the one kind of wild card in this because he did not look great at all against Moreno, but that just kind of goes to the quality of Moreno's fight game because former champion there and still as game as ever. When he took a little bit of time off, we were all wondering how he was going to look when he came back. He looked just as good, if not better, than the previous fights before he took his little sabbatical. So, I mean, Albazi staying at the number 3 spot might be your big mover, I would say, this year, unless he comes back and really proves that he's about it like the rest of the guys.
That's actually a really crazy thing to bring up, about the last of their performances. All of them, at least most of them in that top spots, had a great last performance except Amir Albazi. KKF obviously finishing Steve Erceg. You didn't even go down to Manel. Like, I know he came back quick off of, the Makayev loss, and he avenged himself, kind of deal with the finish. Another one that sticks out, I know we're talking more outside the reach that we wanted to, but like Alex Perez is another one that is just on the decline. It seems like when you look at this list of people, a lot of them are on a good hot streak. So
Absolutely. Well, and going a little bit farther down, we can definitely talk about the rest of the ranked guys a little bit when it makes sense to. And one of them I think makes a lot of sense to talk about is Asuam Mabayev. I feel like he is one of these guys that's, kind of silently in the background lurking and is about to make some moves himself. He's a really dynamic guy, extremely cardio. All the guys at flyweight are going to have amazing cardio, but when you see this guy work with the cardio that he has, the amount of striking that he is able to get off with the movement that he has is like it's great to see. So I mean, like this whole division, you got guys like number 11 now at Tagir, Ulanbekov, who's really like starting to look pretty
still
good.
crazy to me because he missed weight against Josh Van. Like, how is he not
Yeah,
dropping any ranks here? But I know Bruno Silva. Like, it's just Manel Cobb jumping 2 spots after beating the number, what was it at the time, 12th ranked dude. Like, and then you got the dude Ulanbekov. How is he not dropping any ranks? But he's a dude that just ain't even fought because he missed weight. Like, what are you talking about? That's crazy.
yeah, fair. But I mean, then even if not him, then I mean, guys like Charles Johnson, I would say, who's like a workhorse guy who's doing a lot of great things himself this year. Another guy, Josh Van just stays in the conversation one way or another. I was going to say, a dude who knocked out Josh Van. And Josh Van himself at the 15 slot, as Chase had mentioned earlier. So this division is just stacked with a lot of guys that are making moves in real time here. So whether they're at the top of the division or somewhere in the middle there shaking it up throughout the rankings here, I mean, I think that there's going to be movement one way or another because these guys have they're just a lot of really, really skilled guys. And like I would say that like in some divisions that we'll talk about a little bit later on, there's like very clear far gaps in the skill level that like the cream of the crop have and the lower guys like don't necessarily possess. With flyweight, I feel like it's a little bit closer there. Like some of these top guys are the best of the best for sure, and there's always going to be that little gap between like the elite and everybody else. But like I think that there's a lot more potential at flyweight for guys to break through into that elite status.
Yeah, and the company knows that. That's why they give these big jumps from, unranked or, 10th ranked to first, stuff like that. The flyweights, the skill gap is just so small. They're all just so exciting. Like, I mean, that's really all that you can say because they can do everything. There's no weaknesses in most of their games. Like, they all are just great at grappling and great at rolling around because they're just so, tiny, paws, whatever you want to say. But I don't know. Just love the flyweights. I could talk about these dudes all day, really.
I know, yeah, it's true. We keep the train moving because we got a lot to talk about. Because I can do the same. And also I did want to say that watching a flyweight fight in real life, like seeing it in person, is something
Yeah.
else, man. Why these guys bouncing all over the place is it's quite a sight to behold. So if you have the chance to go and check him out live, definitely do so. But all right, let's keep it moving here. Let's move over to bantamweight. And at bantamweight, your champion is Merab Dvalishvili. Number one spot is Sean O'Malley, former champ. Number two is Umar Nurmagomedov. Number three is Piotr Jan. Number four is Corey Sandhagen. And number five is Davison Figueiredo. And I think that much like flyweight, this is another division that is very competitive and a lot of potential movement just because of maybe this one's a little bit less because they're like these guys do set themselves apart a little bit, but I say that and then can contradict it immediately because Umar Nurmagomedov just went from number 10 to number 2 and now getting his title shot in this year. So,
scaling it down to the top 5 here, maybe even 6 if you want to, like, gosh, I think this might be a division where I'm just so not interested anymore. Like, I really enjoyed the time that Sugar Sean had at the top. Like, I really thought we were on to good things. Like, oh, this is like an exciting era we're running into because he's going to be able to knock people out or put on striking master classes. But now we got the 2 dudes that are about to fight that just wrestle against each other. Maybe we'll see. I mean, maybe they won't, but I'm assuming they're going to wrestle against each other and do a lot of thigh strikes and single legs and stalling on the outside. So I don't know. I'm just not really into it. And then we already saw Davis and Figueiredo. Like, he got outclassed by Piotr Jan, like, bad. And I thought that was going to be the dark horse of the division right there. I thought he was coming to be a 2-division champ, and I was wrong. So I'm lost in it and then Piotr Jan, another exciting factor about the whole sport in its own. Like, he's just at a point where it's like, who's he gonna? Are we gonna watch a rematch with him or Merab? Like, or is he gonna lose to Umar like he did to Merab? Like, I don't know. I'm just this division, man. It's
well, all right. I mean, so I don't know if I'm necessarily on the same plane when it comes to that. I think that there are still exciting fights to be had within the styles that they have. For some of these top guys, Merab is the champion, and I mean him versus Umar could be one of the last of them only if they actually do throw some hands in addition to all of the rolling that they're going to be doing, because that's there's going to be a lot of cage stalls. I would think that's Merab is kind of notorious for the the holding up on the cage deal, but I think that within that even Merab is still more active in those situations than a lot of guys that utilize the tactic. So I think that there's still like some value there. And Umar is somewhat of a striker on top of being so good on the ground too. I mean, like his hands are pretty decent. I think that this could be like a really good fight, Merab versus Umar, for those reasons. Like if they negate each other so much when it comes to the grappling situations that one of them just is like kind of forced to be put in a striker's position, then I think that there's potential for that to be pretty okay. And then Piotr Jan coming up after that, I would think that he's probably going to fight the winner. I would think that that's going to be the logical thing. So
you
if
don't think Sean will?
I mean, well, yeah, I guess he kind of has to. Yeah,
Okay.
Sean probably will, but I mean, if not, if or maybe yeah, well, because like Sean is holding out for the rematch. I think is or like holding out for the title shot again. So like
right.
that's gonna be I guess it makes sense. But I mean like Sean got so outclassed by Merab that like it doesn't feel as warranted to me. Like I mean, I'm sure that the organization is going to want to do that because Sean still does hold a decent amount of weight, but it's just like, what value do you like? I think it's going to be one of those situations that it's like going to be a lot of the same, and because I don't know what Sean's going to do differently. Because everybody was saying before the last fight with Merab and Sean, oh well, Sean, if he catches him with the one good shot, that's all it's going to take. But that shot was definitely not there, and I don't think that Merab necessarily is going to change anything about what he did. So is Sean going to go for a more grapple heavy approach or try to like adjust to like I mean, where's the difference between the two fights, like between them?
Yeah, I don't think Sean would come in with a different approach. I think honestly he was probably a little injured, and maybe we still don't know what was going on because he just looked a little off in that.
That
And
is
to
true.
what Elite is saying, give the Peter Yan rematch and go 5 rounds. I don't know if it probably is needed. for the fans to just actually like witness it. But like as Peter Yan said, man, he already beat Sean, so I'm going with that. That's fine with me.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if that's what ends up happening, it's not going to be the worst in the world. I like. I mean, I think that there are only in this one maybe a couple of fights that make sense right now, and then a couple of these other guys that are a little bit lower down are going to have to start like showing that they need to be part of the conversation, so it makes more sense, even if they're not fighting for the title, to fight some of the other higher guys. There are a couple of dudes that are somewhat doing that, I would say. I mean, like guys like Henry Cejudo has a booking now. I think that a good win for him could probably put him back into the conversation somehow, some way to be getting a higher level fight. But this one's a little bit less deep than flyweight for that reason, is that like it needs a little bit more of these guys to that like are shaking things up in order to like keep the division moving, because it like we really could be entering a division of some pretty heavy dominance either way after this fight that we've got coming up between Marab and Umar. Either one, whoever wins that one could very well be pretty dominant for a while based on the styles that they have.
Yeah, and that's pretty unfortunate. And I think that's why I go back to my original statement and I'll stand on that business. Like this division, the future looks very dim right now. Peter Yan is the only gold we have in it right now. I'm telling you. Like that
Yeah.
dude, he can do it. It just takes the right circumstances. And I believe, as Peter Yan believes, the UFC is out to get him. Dana White has got some dirt on him. I don't know. I can't tell you, but Peter, I'm on your side, brother. We're gonna get this gold. We're gonna get another one.
Yeah, talking it through, I think I've come around to your side of the equation a little bit more as far as the state of the division. But anything can happen there, and I do still think I stand by the original assessment, at least of the Marab and Umar fight. I think that that's going to be more competitive than people are giving it credit for, because there is going to be a lot of high level grappling wrestling situations, and if those end up being predominantly what you see, then Umar letting his hands go might be the deciding factor. And I do think that he's probably a slightly better striker than Marab. So there should be a good time to be had there. Thereafter, yeah, we're gonna have to see how it all shakes out. I want to see Corey Sandhagen make a bit of a resurgence personally after the loss that he took to Umar.
I personally do not. He is a bum for that. I want to actually point out
Yikes.
that I hear people, because like I want to actually bring this one up for the discussion for everybody to talk about, because everybody talks about how Umar is such a better striker than Marab. Like they're like, oh, well, he's just like a better striker. Like he can just, and I'm tired of hearing it, because what I watch both of them do, one, ain't much striking, and two, they just stand on the outside away from the strikes. Like I don't even think Marab got hit by Sean. Like, and Sean was just sniping him with the body shots, because like what else I don't know what else you're gonna do. He sucked. He was injured. I don't know. But Marab and Umar both stand way too far out of striking. Like I've seen some of the clips of like Umar and his kicks, but like the clips literally, it's like a 7-second clip of him doing 3 kicks across 5 fights. Like I don't know. So I just don't see it. I would like to see it, and I'm ready to see who's going to be the better striker. But Marab, honestly, I might be on board. I don't know.
Well, fair enough. And I guess we really are just going to have to wait and see what happens with that one. And hopefully it does show you a little bit, because I mean, really, you want to have like a champion that you want to see, right? I mean, like that's, I think the big takeaway from that whole part of the conversation is just like, either one of these guys show us something to inspire more than what we are feeling right now.
Yeah, I'm excited, but not too much.
You can tell the excitement.
Yeah.
Well, let's move on to a division that's perhaps a little bit more exciting here. This is featherweight. Your champion is Ilia Topuria. Number 1 seed is Alexander Volkanovski. Number 2 is Max Holloway. Number 3 is Diego Lopez. Number 4 is Movsar Evloev. And number 5 is Yair Rodriguez. Of course, Ilia Topuria had a breakout year last year, defeating both Volkanovski and Max Holloway, so already has wins over the top 2 guys in the division. However, the big news that was coming out late last year is that Ilia might not be sticking around in the division for very much longer. So this is going to be somewhat interesting to see whether or not he actually does make the move up to the higher weight or if he sticks around for longer than anticipated. He did say that he is going to not just vacate, so he will be defending at least one more time. What are you thinking is going to be happening over here?
This is another division where it's like, what is even happening? Max Holloway is still in the he's still in the rankings, and he's already said I'm not going to go back to 45. So there's that one. Volk is probably going to go to 55. Got to, because like, what are you doing if you lose to Ilya again? If that's truly what you still want to do, Ilya's already said he wants to go to 55. Diego Lopez has fought at 65, like 165 randomly. I don't know. This division is just crazy, and the fact that Yair is fifth in the rankings is still pretty nuts. But
Yeah, that is kind of wild at this point. Is he booked? I mean, like he's one of those guys that it's like he pops up when he's
fights
on
in
like
Mexico.
yeah, I mean that. Yeah, that definitely that. I mean, it's just like he pops up when he's like somewhat hot and then gets like battered down and then just sort of kind of scurries off to a hole somewhere.
Comes
Only to be
back on
some.
Mexican Independence Day or something, and like he's like a trooper for the sport because after he got his face battered last time.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, either way. So yeah, there. This like I'm hoping that Diego Lopez has like the real breakout year this year that we've been kind of wanting him to have. He's the people's champ to a lot of fight fans. Myself, I would say it's hard to put him in that position based on all of what's going on in the division and the dominance that Ilya has now shown there. But as Chase was breaking down, I mean, there's a lot of oddness surrounding the top couple of guys here. You've got one who's leaving. You got two that are potentially leaving. You got the number one who it has only lost recently after being so dominant for so long that it's like, is there what version of him are we even going to see coming up going forward? And then going down the line even past the top five, it's not really that much of a murderer's row if you're wanting my honest opinion. I mean, I think that like Movsar Evloev might be like the another one of these sneaky guys who just somehow weasels his way up to the top just based on being technically proficient on the ground and is able to pull off a whole hell of a lot unless the rest of the division shakes out to the point where he is challenged in a legitimate way.
I think right now, if Ilya is going to be the dude that I just witnessed kill the dreams of two of my favorites, he better go do it to everyone else in this division. Like if he don't do it to all of these dudes who are like when it comes to Volk and Max Holloway, and then you got fucking Yair Rodriguez, like I swear to God, Ilya, just go down the division and just start knocking them out one by one. Don't go to 55, please. Just prove that you can just do it. Like I need you to be Wilt Chamberlain numbers now that you just fucking ruined shit. Like golly.
And that's the whole fucking thing in the first place anyway, right? The whole idea that it's like I mean, because he had already been hinting at wanting to leave the division before he got the belt. Basically, I mean, he's been talking all of this heavy aspirational shit, like I want to do the two division champion thing. I want to retire by whatever the hell he said, 32 or something. I mean, like some ridiculous stuff. I mean, when it comes to like how this sport operates, so it's like, yeah, dude. I mean, there is something to be said for like getting your wins, being the dominant guy, and then riding off into the sunset for you. But like as fight fans, I mean, I think that you almost tarnish your legacy more by not being the dominant champion that you very well could be and currently are by sticking around. So it's like, yeah, I understand the weight cut is tough. The weight cut is tough for everybody, brother. I mean, this is the sport. I mean, how many people miss weight on a regular basis because the weight cut is tough? That's the game that you play in this sport of MMA. So I mean, like, tough it out and be the man for a while, dude. Like it seems like cutting and running is just a like not a great idea for at least from a fan perspective. And then also you're going into a whole different den of killers when you move up. I mean, granted, he has backed up all of the talk that he's had so far. So, who's to say that he couldn't go in there and do the exact same thing? It could very well happen. I'm just saying that that you're in a good thing here now. You're basically turning your back on a good thing for way unknown territory when you've got a lot of unfinished business lower down in the rankings.
Yeah, and you end off saying that he has unfinished business in the rankings, but does he? Like, I mean, he does,
From a
but like,
legacy standpoint.
yeah, it's just this one's a tough division because like I say it that way too, is like, does he really have anything left? It's like, because I really don't want to see Diego Lopez die. Like I think that's very likely too. That's why I'm worried. Like, oof.
I mean, I think that it has to happen, though. I mean, like that should, in my opinion, personally, like if that should be the last fight. Yeah, Volk. I'm a huge fan of Volk. Love Volkanovski for sure. I would prefer at this point, based on what we have seen in recent history. Granted, it could be recency bias. I will completely accept that assessment. But based on the last two Volkanovski performances, the last two Topuria performances, and the last two Lopez performances, I'll take Topuria versus Lopez over the Volkanovski fight.
Yeah, I would too. That's why, again, it's a very weird area again for this other division.
And also, I mean, and look, I don't like the idea of a guy waiting out the champion in order to have a better, more favorable time getting the belt. Personally, it's like these are the two best guys. They should fight. Whoever wins the belt, that's the champ. It's like politicking and gamesmanshipping your way into a championship is kind of weak sauce to me. So as much as I like Diego Lopez, and you're right, I do think that there is a lot of potential for him to get smoked because it is Ilya. The aura is too high there right now. I would still, I think it has to happen. Like before he leaves, for sure. I would think that is somewhat necessary.
Another thing that is to note, and I think this is very interesting that I just kind of thought about, is like, bro, Volkanovski has really basically just waited out all of the potential time that like, his youth is just gone for one, of course, but like, if he would have maybe, of course, he wants to fight for the belt next. That's what he's been saying, but like, he's been waiting a really long time for that. Like, I don't know, it's gonna be a while.
Well, I mean, look, he had to do that. I mean, based on the fact that he was Superman coming in to save events and fighting, a month, back to back, whatever, 3 weeks, between and all that kind of stuff. I mean, he kind of put himself in a weird position there. It was like, I respect him a lot for challenging himself and stepping up. Again, he was the event saver before Alex Pereira was the event saver. You know what I mean? That, the memes are still out there, the 2 weeks notice, call Volkanovski, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's a meme for a reason, but it does take its toll. And that's kind of why he ended up in the position that he is in now to an extent, I would say. I mean, coming off of some tough fights and, a pair of knockouts now, it's really, we're going to have to see what version of him shows back up. And see where I mean, that he's at that age, like you said, he's a little bit farther down the line. It wouldn't be surprising to me if it doesn't go his way going forward. But I mean, again, I think he paced his career a little bit poorly in the later stages, in the somewhat recent past.
I would also like to note, before we move on to the next one, that I made it seem like Volk has been like he has been waiting, but it hasn't been as long as I kind of made it seem. I've only made one full solstice in the sport, so it's kind of felt like a lot longer. Volk literally fought at the beginning of this last year, so let me chill.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And I mean, then that just goes to the activity that he's always kept anyway. I mean, he was a very active champion when he held the belt for as long as he did anyway. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I think that the time off is definitely, it certainly was needed after that second one. He should have taken more time off between the fights that he, again, he paced it a little bit poorly. We'll see what version of him is able to show up now. From there, we're just going to have to also see what Ilya does. This is a very influx division for sure right now. And then again, Max is still part of that conversation too, to an extent, right? Like you said, he's already said that he's not necessarily going to fight there again, but is that going to be the reality of the situation? Who knows?
True.
So, and then like I said, I think that this could be, early, year starting predictions, but this could, in a weird roundabout way, depending on the factors that we see throughout the early part of this year, it could be Movsar Evloev's year, which I never thought I would have to say.
I'm excited. Listen, if that's what's gonna happen, I don't think that could put me in a worse mood than what I watched Ilya do. Like, I actually think it's crazy. Like, this dude, he made me hate watching him so much that I'm actually a fan. Like, I have to be. Like, he's like Jason Voorhees now. Like, it's ridiculous.
It's true. Horseshoe theory, right? We went so far around, you circled back.
Oh,
Yeah,
god
I feel. I
damn.
mean, and yeah, and just to close out this division, of course, we talked about it on the year end highlights episode, but the knockout of Max Holloway is one that I think was a very heavy burden for a lot of people to still be carrying now, just as much of a fan favorite as he is. So, we're gonna have to see. Everybody's still rooting for Max, and hopefully he will be able to do some good work at lightweight, which is where we come up to now.
That's
Your
exactly what I
champion.
was gonna say. Yep,
Yeah.
rooting for Max at lightweight is gonna be the fucking bomb. Like next, like fucking all these matchups that are coming up. Like, whoa, that's gonna be awesome for Max.
Yeah, this is a division that is I mean, it's also kind of like oddly in flux. I've been saying for a while that we're in a weird transitional period in the sport right now. This division also kind of shows it a little bit as well, except for the top. So I mean, Max coming in to shake it up is going to be something that could hopefully breathe some life and put some movement into it. So let's run it down. It is your champion Islam Makhachev. Number one, who he is fighting, is Arman Sarukian. Number two, Charles Oliveira. Number three, Justin Gaethje. Number four, Dustin Poirier. And number five, Max Holloway again. Now, Dustin is on his last fight. At least that's what's been teased here a whole bunch. He's been saying that he's got fight news coming soon. It has not been announced yet, but it's fairly likely that this was going to be the last fight for Dustin. And that is, of course, because he challenged Islam for the belt and came up short on that. Islam has been pretty goddamn dominant in this division, and I don't see any signs of that stopping, but he does have a fight scheduled coming up in not too long amount of time against the number one seed in Arman Sarukian. What are you thinking?
I think that's gonna be another one to look out for. That's in 2 weeks actually. So Islam and Armin, it came quick. Armin really served the cyberbullying suspension, and it's good to see. I mean, I can't really say too much other than, Dustin is technically retired or whatever, and maybe he's gonna come back, hinting at it. But same with Justin. It's like, where's he at? What's new? Max is the one that I think is our golden boy again. Like, and he's still so young, guys. 32 or something, 33, heading into a new division. Like the sky's the limit still. And then, I'll give you one more, reaching down to number 6 with Dan Hooker. That's another one that's interesting, even though I don't think he necessarily beat Gamrot, still don't. It's better than Michael Chandler at 7. So whatever.
Yeah, well, that's the whole deal here, right? You're bringing up a lot of good points because you've got Justin Gaethje, who's been out for a while intentionally after the BMF fight. Of course, he decided that he wanted to take some time off, which I think makes perfect sense after how that fight went down. You've got Max Holloway, who was, we just talked about his situation coming in. Charles Oliveira coming off of a win. I would say that he's, a pretty live wire right now. But after that, you've got the rest. You know what I mean? And you've got your Dan Hooker, who Chase just, said how it really is with him. I mean, he coming off of a somewhat controversial win against Mateusz Gamrot, and then Michael Chandler, who like, I mean, I don't even know how you classify what that performance was against Charles Oliveira, really. I mean, was it entertaining? Sure, but it certainly did not make him look like proficient as a fighter, I would say. And Michael Chandler also, you have to keep in mind too, intentionally sat himself out for over a year, waiting for the Conor McGregor fight that never materialized. So, the division has a lot of weirdness going on there. After the fight with Sarukian and Makachev, I mean, I would guess it's got to be Charles, and then after that, who the hell knows? I mean, I think that this one's going to need a lot of shaking up as well, because like, what do you really do thereafter? I mean, I don't think that you're dipping as far down as to give Dan Hooker a shot. So like, I mean, Max going to fight once and then Max gets a shot if he wins? I don't like, and who does he even fight for that? Just in case he come back. A lot of questions unanswered right now at lightweight, I would say.
I think the one thing about lightweight, and I know this is outside of the scope that we're creating, but is like, why is the UFC kind of stalling Moicano? Like, okay, so he beats BSD in home turf, huge underdog, mops him in 1 round. So, second round took off, whatever. Then they're gonna give him Benil, who's 1 rank above him. Like, are we serious? Like, and the fact that Dan Hooker is just skating by over there in 6 after a very controversial win. It's like, yo, Money Moicano put the business down on somebody. BSD was whooping Dustin Poirier, some people say, in round 1 and then gets knocked. Dustin Poirier goes on to fight for the title. Money Moicano puts the business down in 1 round, and he don't get nothing to show for it. I don't even think he got a bonus that night. Like, that's crazy.
That is wild, and you are fucking preaching right now because it is the truth. You've got Moicano down there. You've got Paddy Pimblett, who's coming off of a beautiful triangle armbar submission. Call it a submission, but I mean it was a knockout before that with Bobby Green. I mean, it's you've got some guys who are really simmering in the lower part of the rankings here, and a bunch of guys up top who are kind of needing to shuffle out a little bit. Like, I mean, I think that the organization is kind of playing a little bit of favoritism because a lot of these guys that are still hanging around in the upper part of the rankings are fan favorites. Of course, Dustin Poirier, huge fan favorite. Justin Gaethje, also a fan favorite. I mean, Charles Oliveira has a huge groundswell of support always around him. So it makes sense that like they're being a little strategic with that. But yeah, like I'm saying, you're exactly right. I mean, Moicano is somebody who is generating a great amount of buzz for himself every time he is on the microphone and then in the cage backing it up as well. I don't think that you can deny him for much longer. So that is a little bit of a slap for him to be going up against Dariush, but that should hopefully take Dariush, pretty well out of the equation. I would be kind of surprised if Dariush is able to show flex of his former self in a win at that point, because Moicano has been on such a tear. But between him, Paddy Pimblett, and then, creeping in at the 15 slot after another beautiful performance, my man Joel Alvarez, I think that this is a mover this year. If you want somebody to keep your fucking eye on in this division this year, Joel Alvarez is on the come up for sure.
I agree. This one's going to be interesting with the people that are entering the division now. Like, I think the top, it's kind of solidified, in my opinion, who's going to be up there. At least, 1, 2, 3, Justin Gaethje, Dustin Poirier, they're going to retire and, do whatever. Like, even a while ago, Justin said he's going to make one last run at the belt and call it. It's like, well, there was your one last run. You got
Right.
the BMF, and then it ain't going much further than that. So Michael Chandler obviously is going to retire here soon. Benio, he's going to be out of there. So what's going to come up, there's going to be a lot of spots opening. And Joel Alvarez is a perfect example of somebody who could just jump into the rankings. Like another person example like that, from another division to jump down, because these are kind of interchangeable when you get down to it. Like John Silva, he could go up to 55 and go take out Jalen Turner probably. That would be a crazy height differential, but the UFC loves doing that shit. So that would be hilarious, but I would love to see it.
Well, and we just talked about in some of the lower weights how like there were those crazy jumps up in in the rankings where you've got a guy at 10 getting a title shot, or 10 versus 2 and those kind of movements and stuff. I mean, I wouldn't think that it would be out of the question for some of that to start happening at this division as well, especially after you get some of these legacy fighters on their next phase of whatever they're going to do, kind of thing. I mean, it's like if you got 1 or 2 more from Justin, you're saying Michael Chandler is going to retire soon. I don't necessarily know if that's true, but he's definitely not going to stay around in the the upper like limits of the rankings, in my opinion, for much longer, fighting the way that he does. So even if he doesn't retire, he's certainly going to to kind of be a middler, I would say. So like guys like Moicano, guys like Paddy Pimblett certainly should be getting those jumps up in competition. I think Dan Hooker could take on either one of those guys, right? And that would make sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I would love to see the sport and Dana and whoever else is making these damn matchups, Mick, Hunter, like give Money Moicano the respect he deserves. Like he just mopped your little French boy. I'm just saying, like.
Yeah, I mean, and there you go. And Benoit's still, in the rankings after that as well. So it's like there's a lot of ability for these fighters to get decent wins and propel themselves, get these other guys out. It's like we're right at the cusp of that, I would say, in this division, where it's like you just need to get a couple more fights like done and over with for some of the legacy fighters, and then you're going to see what the actual shakeup really looks like after that.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
we'll see how it goes. And we've got Arman and Islam to start that off in just a few weeks. So moving on to welterweight, you've got Bilal Muhammad as your champion, 2025. champ Bilal Muhammad. You've got number 1, Leon Edwards. Number 2, Shavkat Rakhmonov. Number 3, Kamaru Usman. Number 4, Jack Della Maddalena. And number 5, Sean Brady. Ian Gary taking a little bit of a tumble there after his loss to Shavkat Rakhmonov, which ended up being the number 1 contender fight. And Joaquin Buckley moving up after his victory over Colby Covington. So even outside of the top 5, you had some movement recently. Welterweight's been fairly active, I would say.
Yeah, that's actually pretty bogus. Like I would just by eye shot, I would say Ian deserves to be over Sean Brady. But as I saw Sean Brady's name on this list, I did kind of think like, oof, he looks really good in his last fight against a really shitty fucking Kevin Gastelum. But Sean Brady looked pretty good. So that was kind of my dark horse. But I was also going to say, I don't know if you saw, but it is rumored that Leon and Jack are going to be headlining London.
I did see the rumor of that. I didn't know if it was confirmed or not yet.
I think it's almost but confirmed.
Yeah, I was
So
the source that I was getting it from is not always the most reliable, so I got
true.
waiting for some solid evidence on that one. But that's fine. I mean, look, I think that Jack was the person I was going to talk about next. Honestly, I mean, based on his last fight, of course, a lot of people very, very high on him. He's always been somebody that I've kind of been a little bit iffy on. The fight with Kevin Holland just sticks out in my mind as one of those like one that it's a fight that he won, but it sort of showed a lot of cracks in the armor to me. So I think that a fight with Leon Edwards is definitely going to, either confirm or deny some of the suspicions that I have about him. I mean, I think that he's definitely got the power advantage there. If that's the way that it goes, I mean, then may the best man win on that one. And of course, we've got Shavkat and Bilal coming up sometime this year. So whoever wins that will probably be who takes on the winner of that fight.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Also, you got Usman too. This is another one that's weird in the division. It's like,
Yeah.
when is he gonna fight? What's he gonna do? Honestly, Sean Brady. Wait, I don't know. That's a weird one, but it is something in the rankings that could possibly make sense. We're waiting to see what is Bilal up to. Like, is he hurt? Like, when is he gonna fight? When's he gonna defend his belt?
Well,
Gilbert Burns, honestly.
he
Yeah,
had the
well, yeah,
bone
he did have
injury
the
thing,
toe thing.
Yeah.
But I think you said he was cleared a while ago, but I
I
could
mean,
be wrong.
he was over at the WWE standing around, looking like he was 100%.
True,
He certainly walked into the cage 100% when he had the most awkward in-ring showdown of all time with Shavkat.
true.
Video on the
Yeah.
channel about that if you want to go check that out. But yeah, so I mean, I would think that Bilal is fine. I don't know why they're waiting on announcing for that, but for whatever reason, they haven't announced for that fight just yet. Coming up a little bit later in the year, whatever. Yeah, I'd say that you're exactly right about Kamaru, though. Kamaru needs to figure out what he's going to do and where he wants to be, because Joaquin Buckley did call him out at UFC Tampa, and he walked out of that building so goddamn quickly that it didn't look like he wanted any part of anything. So I don't know what the deal is with Kamaru, if he even wants to fight again or not. I've been hearing rumors on both sides.
I would love to see him go up a weight class. Like, I think he would fit in better there. Obviously he had the matchup with Hamzat, and that was a pretty good one. People wanted to see, the 5 rounds of that. I don't know if we'll ever get that. It's probably just a dream, but I think he does match up well. Surprisingly, like, he went up a weight class and you couldn't really he looked good. I think it was a good up a weight.
Yeah, and look, I mean, Kamaru Usman was one of the most dominant champions that this sport has ever seen. So don't get it fucking twisted. I think that a lot of people have this weird perception of Kamaru Usman for some reason. I think that he was like the boring champion before boring champions, which is like, now you're seeing. We were just talking about bantamweight, so take that for what it is. But I mean, he was extremely dominant and pulled off some amazingly good performances at welterweight. So there's really no reason that he should be inactive unless he just doesn't want to fight anymore. I mean, that's the only reason I'm even giving any credence to the rumors, is because it's like, look, he's doing his podcast thing. He seems to be enjoying that. He has not really given any indication that he's really gunning to come back. So it's like, I don't know where his head is at necessarily. And that's really the only reason that I'm kind of talking about him the way that I'm talking about him, because there's no reason other than that, that he shouldn't just be being like, okay, let me get me back in. I mean, yeah, I dropped the belt, but I'm still as good a fighter as I ever have been. Put me in. I mean, I'm a little worried about his knees because I do know that he's had some problems with his knee joint before. Like some ACL, MCL kind of area stuff. I believe that I've heard that about Kamaru before, so there might be something there. I don't know. There's just question marks surrounding Kamaru Usman as to why he's not like more actively pursuing getting back in the cage. And it's like, dude, you're number 3 right now. So I
Right.
mean, you're right there in the dead center, smack in the middle of this conversation with a bunch of guys who do want to be fighting, who do want the belt. We just have to see how he shakes out.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It is interesting to see what's next. My main thing that I was going to say is podcasting, it must pay well. So thank you, Kamar Usman, for showing me the way, man. I mean, here we go.
That's right. Yes, Kamaru blazing a trail, him and Henry Cejudo, with all of the amazingly accurate and well-founded takes that they have. So anyway, yeah. So I mean, look, will Bilal be able to retain over Shavkat? I think that after the Ian Gary fight, a lot of people are thinking that it's a lot more likely than they might have thought beforehand. Shavkat was the boogeyman of the division for quite some time. He looked a lot more human, a lot more beatable in the fight
Yes.
against Ian Gary. So, that's, I think, going to be a really interesting fight there. Leon Edwards going up against Jack, if that does come to fruition, I think that that's going to be very telling as well. It's going to be a really good indicator as to whether or not Jack Della Maddalena is cut out to hold the gold as well. Sean Brady staying around in the conversation as well. A lot of people count him out too, but like I've always thought that like they've been counting him out a little unnecessarily. Like even just as we started talking about this division, you're saying that Ian Gary should be a little bit higher above him. I can understand the reasons for that because I think that Ian Gary is a little bit more of a dynamic fighter than Sean Brady is, but Sean Brady is getting those wins. So there's a lot of a lot of quality at welterweight right now, I would say. Even if you're not the biggest fan of Bilal, you got to hand it to him. The guy knows how to win a fucking fight.
Yeah, I think the last things that I'll note on is that I hope a lot of people take away, and I don't believe this, but I hope they take away from the Ian Gary fight that he's mid, and I hope that they raise that price for me to bet on for him. I hope that's what happens because I'll take that over Bilal any day. And two, Ian Gary, I before Jack and Leon was established, I believe like, man, I think I really want to see Ian and Leon. And I think there's possibilities that it could be boring and stall, but I think Ian has that mentality where it's like if the striking is not, good or going well, or if it's boring, like he'll actually attempt to grapple. And then I think it'll get interesting in that matchup. But I also I don't know. Like I think Ian Gary has this style where he can potentially make a lot of matchups boring because he can do a lot of different stuff. He's good at negating game plans. I do believe that.
No, I agree with you completely. He's a very he's got a keen ability to key into what the opponent is showing him. Now, I mean, whether he's able to actually turn that into wins all the time is the question now because he was able to do that for so long and was not able to do that with Shavkat. But he was pretty fucking close. He was pretty goddamn close there with the rear naked that he had. I mean, that really goes to the amazingness of Shavkat to be able to get out of that, which looked so dead to rights to me. I was stunned that he was able to get himself out of that position. So Ian Gary continues to have a solid mindset when it comes to the sport specifically. His outside personal stuff is outside and personal, does not have any bearing on that. But after the loss, he took the loss very well, and I did want to give him a little bit of props for that. I thought that he has been conducting himself a lot better lately, personal life aside. So. Nothing to say that Ian Gary should be counted out of the conversation either. So a lot of hungry guys at welterweight right now.
100%. I actually was going to agree with you and say, yeah, his new persona that he has, I don't know if many people catch it because maybe they just see it as like, oh, he's like stopped being so vocal about stupid shit. And I don't have to care about that. I just got to care about his fights. I like his new persona was like, I don't have to be like the scariest dude, but like I'll take the fights with whoever. Like, I mean, if it's Shavkat and if that's what it has to be, like I'm going to show everybody that they can call me whatever they want, but I'm not a punk in reality. Like I will fight whoever, and I think that's pretty respectable.
Absolutely, yes. Keep taking every fight that they are offering because everybody is very impressed with that. And keep your wife at home.
Yeah.
Those two things will go very far for Ian Gary in 2025.
Yep.
All right, moving on to middleweight. You've got Dricus du Plessis, the unlikely champion, but champion nonetheless, at least to a lot of people. I always thought that he had champ potential, and he is the champ now. You got Dricus du Plessis as champ. You've got Sean Strickland in the number 1 slot. Number 2 is Israel Adesanya. Number 3, Hamzat Chimaev. Number 4, Robert Whitaker. Number 5, Nasruddin Imavov. What are you thinking about middleweight right now?
This is DDP's division, man. I mean, I'm looking at all his sons right now. Like this is crazy because he's just so good at being a hard matchup. Like you don't know what he's gonna do. He legit can do stuff that no fighter on planet Earth would ever do. And that's just hard to defend at the end of the day. I know Hamzat is everybody's best option, and Sean is going to get his title shot, which I'm not wishing anything upon anybody, but this is the crazy sport. Sean could end up not fighting first. He could pull out, something could happen, and then Hamzat could slide right in. This is just shit that happens. And I don't know if Hamzat's going to be able to get it done, but DDP is really fucking good, guys. I'm really a fan. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, that's kind of why I started the division that way. It's like a lot of people like didn't think that it was possible for Dricus to get the belt and retain, and I was like, for the longest time, not really understanding where people's minds were at with this. I mean, like he's unorthodox. He's a little bit, sloppy. Some people say, but it's like it's a sloppiness that works. It's like the drunken master style.
Yeah, exactly.
The barroom brawler that just gets the fucking job done. He's Jake the Muss in there. So I mean, that's it's been working for him greatly so far, and I think that his style versus Sean Strickland, as Chase alluded to, they are slated to face each other. A lot of people were not too happy about that. Like Chase was saying, people want Hamzat to get the shot over Sean. Sean rematching Dricus, I kind of have mixed feelings about it, but fine. If that's what the organization wants, we'll get through that fight and see what happens. But I do think that fight goes pretty similar to the first version of it. I don't like Sean Strickland has not evolved his style much in the fights that we've seen. I think the Paulo Costa fight was a great example of that. Like, you had Paulo Costa running away for the majority of the fight. I don't think I've ever seen a fighter in a 5-round fight do quite as much lateral movement as Paulo Costa did. And Sean, retained the same style that he works with. He didn't adapt to it in the slightest. So that signals to me that Sean is going to be coming into the fight the same way that he came into the first fight. And if that's the case, then you get a repeat, really. I don't see why it would be any different unless Sean catches him in a way that we're not expecting. But Sean Strickland is not the guy to do that.
I think all fighting aside, we didn't even talk about Izzy and Imavov much, and I really could care less. Robert Whitaker, again, I don't know what happened with the teeth thing. I don't know when you're going to be back. That's pretty crazy. I don't know. That looks like it hurts. But one thing that I want to note specifically is that DDP, unlike the last two people that we talked about, the last two champs specifically, Bilal and Islam, I'm not saying it in a bad way. I just think he represents a champion differently. Like Dricus is the epitome of a champion. He holds himself to a standard of a champion, and I just really respect the hell out of this dude. Like he's my guy, man. I just can't say much more. And we're coming up on the good divisions here, guys. The last this one here and the next one, like these are my guys. I didn't say it earlier. Pantoja, that is my fucking guy. And yeah, like I'm just really happy that DDP runs this division as a true champ and a true Chad. Like he just is one.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree. I agree across the board there. Robert Whitaker, like you said, got his teeth, his teeth pushed in by Hamzat Chimaev. Yeah, Hamzat. He got his teeth kind of wrecked by Hamzat Chimaev in that fight. That was, the teeth issue aside, the fact that was how that fight went down is what really was one of the biggest letdowns of the year for me. Robert Whitaker is a dude who I've always been a big fan of, and it did show that Hamzat really is about his shit. If he's able to get his game plan off in the first round of the fight, you're dealing with a hurricane there. So Hamzat definitely earns the place that he has in the division now. Of course, Hamzat also deals with a lot of health issues. It seems, him staying healthy is always going to be a bit of a wild card. But once you get outside of Dricus, Sean, Izzy to a much lesser extent, and Hamzat, then it's kind of like, there's a little bit of again, transitional time going on here. You've got Nasruddin Imavov, who not a lot of people are hot on, myself included, only because he's not super inspiring. He just happens to be beating some of these other guys that just hang around in the division for a while. Like, he just recently beat Brendan Allen, and Brendan Allen looked like an entirely different person in that fight. So, I mean, it's like you've got him, you've got Marvin Vittori sticking around for, just kind of hanging on. Jared Cannonier, who's at the tail end of his career. Guys like Kyle Bahayo give me a little bit of hope for this division to coming in and making a splash here. Israel Adesanya, we got to see what he's able to still do at this point, coming off of losses now. So, Israel is kind of in the same position that Volk was in, or still finds himself in. So, yeah, I mean, Dricus is reigning supreme right now, and it does seem like he's going to stay there for a little minute unless Hamzat's able to dethrone him, and the rest of the division just needs to catch up.
Yeah, I truly believe, like, if we talk about Izzy, I truly believe if you lose to Imavov, as somebody who's in the GOAT level, like, discussion of, like, talent, legacy, whatever, it's like Imavov is not on your level. Like, this is what I was feeling about Conor McGregor and Michael Chandler. It's like these are two way different level athletes at the end of the day. I know Conor, obviously, not never coming back to full form, whatever you want to say, never coming back, period. But it's like Imavov and Izzy. If Izzy and Imavov strike, holy shit, Izzy should destroy this dude. Like, he should probably knock him. Like, I've seen him do it to Paulo Costa. Like, I don't know. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, this is the way that the sport moves. Israel Adesanya, another very, very dominant champion in his time, and an extremely active champion as well. So it's like, again, the parallels between him and Volkanovski are very, very close in my opinion. And
Same camp too.
Dell, of course, I mean that as well. The roots are there as well from the area of the world that they come from. Yeah, I mean, this really could be a big shakeup time for that part of it. If he does lose to Nasruddin Imavov or someone of that caliber, then yeah, it's going to be it probably is going to be a bit of a sunset on the Israel's time in the top of the rankings.
I know Izzy probably, and I would be before I broke it down of Izzy and Imavov the levels. I probably would have told you that Izzy should come in here humble because he just fucking lost 2 times. Just lost to Strickland and then just got choked out by DDP. However, yo, you need to come in here like this is some disrespectful shit. Like, Imavov, come on. Like, this dude, I'm just tired of it, man. I really am. Like, this dude is just not that good in my opinion. He got one good aspect, and it's that he can get on the inside and pop a quick combo and get out. Like, and his wrestling, sure. But like, he don't even do that much. Like, he's not really, he likes to be a striker. Like, I don't know. Dude's
Yeah. And that fight taking place on a fight night too, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, that's the at least that's what I've heard, and it was like, oh man, that is a.
Oh wait, it's not going to be in Australia?
I mean, I would have thought that it was, but I had heard. I don't know. Maybe I got bad information
maybe
on that.
The Australia card it's not a pay-per-view.
I don't. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
I just heard that it was going to be on a fight night, and I was like, oh wow, yeah, that's quite a changing of the guard moment, having Israel Adesanya headlining a fight night.
Yeah, but that's perfect for Imavov, man. That's his fucking home. Like, golly.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Most definitely. So, but and then we kind of touched on it a little bit. But Kyle Bahayo had a really great year last year. One of the fighting nerds. I would say one of the most surging of them. All of those fighting nerds, of course, doing great things. Kyle really setting himself apart, and
I'm
showing.
kind of worried about him. Not gonna lie, he kind of got battered. Like, his last couple of fights, like, he was it was kind of war type situations.
Yeah, but he pulled through, and I mean, he took a lot of damage, but he gave a lot of damage too. I mean, he was going up against Jared Cannonier, who was, in like fight or flight mode, a kind of deal. I mean, he really had to. His back was against the wall to an extent. Um,
True.
kind of put Jared Cannonier out of the conversation, sadly, because I think that the Imavov fight was really an unfortunate situation there with the early stoppage. But losses starting to mount for Jared Cannonier. Like I think that really was kind of his last stand moment, and Kaio was able to do his thing in the end. So
Yeah,
I think good job
I
overall.
think Kaio, out of the fighting nerds, just because we'll make a little parallel here, it's like he's the only one that I like. I watch their fights, and I'm like, I worry about you. The other ones, I'm like, okay, they're good. They know what's going on. They're ahead of the game. Like Carlos Prates, his takedown defense, like it's just so great for like how good his stand up is. Like it just makes me think like, oh yeah, he's fine. Like he's good to go. Jean Silva, he's just such a little slippery guy. Like he can just get up and then he can just bop you and like and anyway, he's good. Caio Bahayo though, I'm like watching him and he gets in situations where I'm like, you're lucky that you made that move because it was going to be a long fight if you wouldn't have ended it right then and there kind of deal. I don't know.
I'm going to hold you to that next time that Mauricio Hoofy goes for a Mortal Kombat sweep.
True. I didn't bring him up because like the last fight that he had, it was like a war that I feel like was similar to something that Kaio was in. So, but that was like his first fight. Kaio's still like he's kind of getting deeper into his career here.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that it really does go to the point, though, that we're kind of making about the division in general, just that there's a lot going on here. I mean, like, it's weird because it's still transitional, but like these guys, like, this is one that once this shakes out, it's going to really start moving, I think, a lot quicker thereafter. I mean, like, because you're going to have the one versus champion fight. Theoretically, if Dricus retains, then you have him versus Hamzat is probably going to be the next likely one, and then after that, the rest of the division is going to start really making some big moves one way or another. I would think. You've got a lot of these guys that are lower down that are going to be starting to filter out. Like I was saying, Marvin Vittori, Jared Cannonier, Brendan Allen, I would even put in that category to an extent. I think Paulo Costa, I've never been super hot on him. I think that he like that level of fighter is going to start filtering out, and you're going to start seeing people kind of taking those slots in a big way. So it might not be super quick that the upper portion of the rankings gets like crazy shakeups, but you're going to start seeing a lot of movement in that division overall this year, I would say.
I'm excited to see it, man.
Yeah. Well, moving on to light heavyweight, of course, you've got your champion, Alex Pereira, fighter of the year, Alex Pereira. Number one is Magomed Ankalaev. Number two is Yuri Prohashka. Number three, Jamal Hill. Number four, Jan Blachowicz hanging on. And number five, Alexander Rakic. You were saying that your guy is Dricus, your guy is Alex, and your guy is Pantoja. I would certainly say that I am in the camp that Alex Pereira is my guy for sure.
Yeah, this dude's he's a Chad, man. There's nothing that he could do wrong at this point. Allegations aside, we don't worry about those. And, so the other people in the division, gosh, they're just no other than Yuri, no aura, just no aura coming from him. Like I actually think Rakic, out of these five right here, like I think Rakic would be the best matchup for Alex. I think he might have like a good stand up with him, but he just has no aura and he gets knocked and he's just not that good. And he had a boring matchup against Ankalaev, so he has no fire in him. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that that's the big issue right now is that Pereira has just been so dominant in this division that it's really spinning the wheels. I mean, he's beaten pretty much almost everybody aside from Ankalaev. Uh, everybody's kind of saying that, Ankalaev's the best matchup for him. We saw Ankalaev's last fight. It was not super inspiring, in my opinion. I did a whole rant about it on the last GM episode, or the one about that pay-per-view anyway. I mean, he's ran through so much in such a dominant fashion that this is another division where you've got guys that are getting shot up at him, and he's batting them down too. I mean, the Khalil Roundtree fight was a great fight, but it just went to show that, like, these champions, when you want to do the hot shotting thing, everybody thought that it was a little bit odd that Khalil got the hot shotting. I certainly thought it was weird. I was like, man, you're jumping up a dude way, way high up when you have Magomed Ankalaev right there to get the title shot. It turned out to be a really great fight. There was value there, but like, it's just Alex fucking Pereira right
Yeah.
now. It's the Alex show.
I think maybe something that we overlook, and maybe I just thought about it, like when a champion's in their prime, like quote unquote prime, like this is Alex's prime right now. It not athletically, but of his career in the UFC. It's like throwing somebody who's eighth ranked, like they gotta take that as disrespectful. It's like I know like we want to see new fresh faces in the limelight, but it's like you're clearly throwing somebody who's not on my level. Alex showed it at the end of the day.
Yeah,
It was close though.
I guess that's one of those things that it's like, you should always go into every fight like thinking that it's, taking every fight as seriously as you would any other fighter. So I think that that's like how the champion generally is going to approach those fights, and I would think that Alex Pereira, especially early on in that fight, probably got pretty decent understanding that it wasn't, somebody who was way, way off. I think that it was, in the end, pretty well founded that Khalil ended up getting that shot. I thought, was it warranted at the time? I still don't think that it necessarily was, but turned out to be after the fact. It was a great performance, even in a losing effort for Khalil. What do you do otherwise though? How many times are you going to have him fighting the same guys when the rest of the division needs to figure itself out? I would say that a guy like Carlos Ulberg needs to make a big, big splash this year and get himself in that position to be the next guy, because with Jamal Hill, he's going to be fighting Yuri. Do you really want another Jamal Hill Alex Pereira fight after that? I guess it would make sense if he wins that fight. You kind of have to. He's a former champion himself, but like these other guys, like there needs to be more people setting themselves apart in order to make these fights like desirable at this point, because Alex has just done everything that he needs to do to cement himself as the GOAT in the
True.
division.
True. Yeah, it's hard to say more. Alex really just runs the show here. Ankalaev may get his shot. I think Alex is trolling with the Hamzat fight. I don't know. Maybe it'll happen. Maybe it won't. But Ankalaev at some point will get his shot against Alex, and I think Alex will still win. So
yeah, I would tend to agree there. The one kind of wild card-ish, I guess if you can even really call it that, is possibly Jan Blachowicz, because a lot of people are going back to that fight and having the same assessment that I had in the moment watching that fight, in that it might not have been a robbery, but slight petty theft, perhaps. It was a lot closer of a fight than a lot of people remember it to have been. But Jan Blachowicz has been out for so long at this point. It's really kind of wild that he's even holding on to the number 4 slot. Granted, he has been injured, so there's reason for it, but what version of him is going to come back? He's getting up there in age. I don't know if it's much of a wild card as I, maybe even would think, even presenting it that way, but there is some potential there for maybe something crazy to happen.
yeah, it is a crazy timeline where Jan is an inactive champion. That is crazy to think about, but I don't believe, Alex is just here to stay for a really long time. Jan may get a comeback fight against somebody. I don't know. Is something booked with him? I feel like I saw his name recently.
Who are you saying?
Jan.
Oh, with Jan, he's been rumoring a comeback for like forever.
Okay.
It feels like I don't know if they've actually like made anything firm
Yeah.
yet, but he's just been out for so long. I guess he had double shoulder surgery or something along those lines, so it was pretty substantial surgery that he had to have, or whatever. Something sidelined him for quite a while. Again, I'm not really like trying to dog on him for that reason, but you got to
Yeah.
be realistic about what you're going to be getting when he comes back one way or another. And then all of these other guys that we've talked about, Yuri has fought Alex twice. Jamal Hill lost to him. Jan has lost to him. Rakic just lost to him. These right? He fought Rakic already. No, am I wrong about that?
Alex?
Yeah.
No.
No, he has not fought Rakic yet. Okay. Well,
That was
anyway,
Yuri.
Yeah, right. So I mean, the point though is that like I mean these guys have the upper level of the division has pretty well been cleared out. He only has guys that they're going to be shooting up from farther down the ladder in order to feed to Alex if he even wants to stay at light heavyweight. The world is Alex Pereira's oyster right now.
True.
So we're really
Yep.
just gonna have to see what they want to do, what he wants to do. Like you had said, if he wants to go fight Hamzat, that would be pretty wild. Who knows? But right now, Alex is at the top of the heap. And to finish off the review of the rankings, speaking about top of the heap, you've at least for the men anyway, you've got John Jones at heavyweight as your champion. You've got your interim champion, Tom Aspinall, in the number 1 slot. Number 2 is Cyril Gahn. Number 3, Alexander Volkov. Number 4, Sergey Pavlovich. Number 5, Curtis Blades. Heavyweight has been in quite a sore position for a while. We've talked about it plenty of times on this show. What are you thinking about heavyweight in 2025?
Well, I will say what is good to know, statistically speaking, and objectively, the number one guy and the champ, they can beat everybody in that division. 100%. There's no doubt about it. Both of those dudes can wipe the floor with everybody right now. And I think that is to some point that is good. I guess that is a real like that's real. The champion and the interim champion are the two best people in the division. That
Yeah,
doesn't always happen, I guess.
I mean, that is certainly a silver lining way to look at it. It's also on the flip side of that, if you want to be pessimistic about it, I would say one of the worst times that we've ever had at heavyweight.
Yeah.
Heavyweight's always been kind of a shallower pool. The big guys, just for whatever reason in MMA, it's a tougher get to have guys in heavyweight that are well rounded. We talked about that plenty of times. Really the takeaway here, there's not too much to say. It's just that Jones and Aspinall needs to happen, and thereafter, whoever gets that fight, if John decides that he wants to stick around after that, then he'll run that division. If Tom wins it, and he, like obviously he'll stick around. If Tom wins that fight, he's going to run the division, and that's pretty much about it. I mean, I guess you could say that there's potential for a guy like Volkov, maybe, I mean, the fight that he just lost was not a loss. Everybody knows that Cyril Gahn was gifted that victory for some reason. Cyril Gahn looking like he doesn't even really want to fight anymore. Your Sergey Pavlovich could come back. I mean, I think that a tune-up fight for him would be really good in order to see if he's even got anything left to give in that regard. Just looking the way that he's looked in his last couple of fights, it's just a really kind of a bleak time at heavyweight right now.
The thing to note, if you are a heavyweight looking for title, aspirations, there is so much time that you have right now. There's going to be you could have 4 fights before John Jones negotiates that fight, before they have their training camp, before they ever have that fight, and before they ever recoup for that next title fight. Like there is so much time for you to come out here. If you're Jailton Almeida, you could go out here and have a great year, win 3 fights, step up on one short notice, something like that. And then by the time that these dudes finally get their shit straight and fight, if they ever do, whatever the case may be, you could be front and center riding a 2-3 fight win streak, and you could be undeniable because people like motherfucking Curtis Blades are about to lose to an unranked dude or something. Like you can take advantage of this position. Tai Tuivasa is going to get the fuck out type shit. Like people like that. And then Shamil Gazif, I know we joke about it, but like he already got skyrocketed into a 5-round fight before. Who's to say he doesn't get skyrocketed into another one after he wins another fight or something like that? He could end up in the top rankings very, very soon. Could be a big year for a lot of people.
Yeah, no, I think you make a great point there. This is open territory for guys to put on really, really good performances and get themselves into a great position just by nature of the way that this division is currently shaked out. So, I mean, Yeah, this really the big takeaway here is go out there and have a breakout year for yourself to get yourself exactly into the position that Chase was just laying out, because it's wide open territory for anybody who is not John Jones or Tom Aspinall.
Obviously, in the Jones era, I think my vision of what a heavyweight champion is kind of skewed because I'm sitting here thinking, and I'm like, okay, the heavyweight belt is not going to get defended, until, between Jones and Aspinall, in my opinion, it's not going to happen until the end of summer. And then whoever's going to fight for the belt fresh after that, Aspinall or John, or whoever's going to fight the new owner between Jones and Aspinall, that's going to be like early 2026 type shit. Like, I don't know. I could be wrong, but like you got a whole year to think about what you're going to do and how you're going to get yourself in title implications.
Yeah, and I don't want to go on a patented John Jones hater rant right now, but this is the heavyweight that you get when you have the current John Jones at the champion level, in that position. You get the inactivity, you get the stipulations that come with fighting John Jones, the number $30 million
Yeah,
has been
maybe
floated.
maybe I'm like actually in real time realizing why some people hate John Jones. Like maybe that's like what's going on here.
I mean, one of among many reasons that I could name but won't. But I mean, this is certainly part of it, though. I mean, like he has set himself up with all of the lead up to the Stipe fight that took place last year. Finally, after all the wait that we had to go through for that, he set himself up for being the dictator of his of everything that he does at this point. So I mean, like, what John wants, John gets. We know that. So John can choose to not fight for 6, 7, 8 months. John can choose to wait out for the $30 million if that's actually a legitimate number. That's just been floated around as a rumor, but nothing confirmed there. And he probably will get that too. And that's like, I'm not mad at that. Get the money, that's fine. But we have to sit by and watch this division continue to stagnate with all of these guys underneath it that no one really cares too much to watch. I mean, you have all of that. You have John at the top and everybody underneath creating this massive like vortex of like like something that you don't want to see. It just I don't know,
Yeah.
lack of a better term. I'm at a loss for words as to how to describe it, but it's a black hole of entertainment when it comes to heavyweight right now, and it's really, at least in part, because of John being the dictator of everything that he does.
Yeah, it is kind of like when I see people like, okay, Volkanovski, and it's not just me and not just, you, it's like the fan base themselves, like they respect somebody who's really just game as fuck. And then you get somebody who it's like, oh, John Jones is fighting in July, and it's like 2 year July 2027. It's like Jesus fucking Christ. Like I don't know. Like I like John Jones and he does put on good performances. And I've always looked at him as the GOAT. When I look at the highlights, like this dude's the whole package. But like as a fan in real time witnessing it, it's like I am accurately thinking I will not see the heavyweight champion fight. Maybe not even this year again. Like it's possible.
Yeah, no, and everything that I just said is all caveated and
Yeah.
prefaced by John being the greatest fighter of all time. That's certainly an accurate and fair assessment. It's just all of the trappings that surround him that make it hard to, abide by the state of the heavyweight division right now. And poor Tom Aspinall having to waste away. I mean, like, that's, I think, the biggest casualty of all of this is the prime years of Tom Aspinall. All of these months that he has been, healthy and ready to go, having to defend an interim title, that is just the biggest slap in the face in the world, to have a champion, a potential champion, having to defend silver. It's just a
I
yeah.
Yeah. My word on that, and I recently was thinking about it. I might have been in a restaurant or something waiting in line, and I thought the fighters should just not take the interim belt. Like, don't take that fight, don't get it, because then you're at the whim of the champion. They can do whatever the fuck they want. It's like you're just not gonna fight until I fight you. Like once you're labeled as the interim champ, like I know Tom Aspinall defended the interim belt, but that was like we kind of feel bad type of thing. They won't shut the fuck up. Like that ain't gonna happen all the time. So
Well, who knows? I mean, if John decides to stay out forever, then there is potential that he might have to defend that interim championship again. And if that happens, I mean, like I think that the fans in England are going to be tearing their fucking hair out. I mean, you're gonna have
yeah,
riots in the street over there more so than you already have. But I digress. But anyway, so really, I mean, that's really where the heavyweight division is at right now.
true.
It's just it's in a bit of a stalemate position. Anybody could have a big standout year and get themselves right into the title conversation just by nature of winning a couple of fights against other fighters who are not that great.
True. Yeah.
All right, let's move over to the ladies. We've got women's strawweight. You've got Zhang Weilei as your champion. You've got Tatiana Suarez at number 1. Got Yan Xiaonan at number 2. Virna Jandiroba at number 3. Jessica Andrade at number 4. And Amanda Lemos at number 5. Zhang Weilei and Tatiana Suarez are scheduled to fight, if I'm not mistaken. Is that actually going to happen?
Yeah, maybe not. I don't know. The only thing that I'm actually gonna say publicly right now is that Virna Jandiroba is going to maybe be champ one day. I hate to break it to you, and I love my girl Zhang Weili, and yeah, I don't know, man. She's got some crazy strength, and she can grapple, man. And another thing that I'll note right off the bat, 4 and 5, Andrade, Lemos, they gotta go. Andrade can stay, just not in the high ranks. I just want to see her knock a bunch of people out because like she's in the record book. Like that's what you got to do at this point is like see how long she can do it. Like fuck, Derek
Yeah,
Lewis shit.
for sure. I mean, she's been talking about Jessica Andrade. She's been one that has really let me down a lot because I always thought that she had potential to be a pretty dominant champion if she was able to get it and you know do all of the right things. And there have just been times where she was not able to accomplish that. Um, I think that Yan Xiaonan had a really nice standout performance in Macau. So good potential for her. I have no problem with Virna Jandiroba being champion if that ends up being the case. She also had a really good performance not too long ago in her last fight. So I'd say that it's a pretty competitive division. I really do want that Tatiana Suarez and Zhang Weili fight to actually happen. Tatiana Suarez is like she's turning into a little bit of a Zabit Magomed Sharapov in a way where it's like so much inactive, or more accurately, I'd say like Dom Cruz, where it's like she's been marred by such unfortunate injury and health complications that it's like we're being deprived of what could be a really really great champion in Tatiana Suarez. She's amazing, like she's a really really great fighter, and just life circumstances have kept her from achieving the full potential that she has. So I really want to see her fight Zhang Weili. And if she's able to pull that off, then this could be a whole new world for this division.
Is like the worst thing you can do is win right after you lost the title shot because like what is Yan Xiaonan gonna do? Like she can't just fight Wei Lei again. Like I mean it's just not gonna happen. Like
Yeah, she fights the winner of her and Suarez.
if it's Wei Li, I mean we already watched her get mopped. Like
I think I mean yeah, okay, fair. I mean I'll go with you on that. Then maybe you give Veer another shot and she fights the loser of
yeah,
that
but
fight.
see, and then you're just at this game where it's like, oh, well, she can just fight the loser of that one, or the loser of that. It's like you can't. There's no fresh matchup that you can have right after you lose to the champion, like because like all that you have next is like, okay, well, she can just fight the person that just lost. You know, she'll get the next one. Like I don't know.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that that's going to be a lot of the themes when it comes to the women's divisions. Anyway, is that
True.
women's MMA at the highest levels is in that weird spot, like what we were talking about earlier in the stream, where it's like you've got the rankings, and then you've got like the cream of the crop elite out of the rankings. You know that like women's MMA. I think that the division there is a lot more steep than it is in some of the men's divisions, and this is a good example of it. So. Yeah, I mean, I think that right now it's going to be up to Tatiana Suarez to shake it up and get that belt if she's able to do it. If not, then we might end up seeing a situation like we've had in the with the smaller men, where we get a crazy hot shot situation. Perhaps if Zhang Weili is even going to come back and be active, we were talking about that in the year end wrap up, how inactive that she has been. Like
True.
one defense in a year is really kind of not great when it comes to being a champion, especially when you have fighters like Valentina Shevchenko, who have been a lot more active during their reigns. And of course, she is regained. We'll talk about that in a minute. But either way, I mean, like, go out there and be active and continue to move, keep things moving, man. I mean, that's really what we need to see, because a lot of these fighters, like you're saying, the Jessica Andrade and Amanda Lemos, like, those are two fighters that could easily get overtaken by some of these other fighters lower down. We just need to see that happen. There needs to be forward progress.
Yeah, and Whaley, she might move up. There's some talk about her going to try to go for some double belt aspirations, and I think that would be completely warranted. But with Tatiana, there's some unfinished business. Other than that, I think Virna is probably going to be the one to go up there and get some, at least make it competitive. Like Whaley made it look so uncompetitive between Lemos and then Jan, and it's just like, I know we've obviously seen her lose, so we know she's not bulletproof, but it is going to be very, very interesting to see what goes next. I hope she goes for Valentina, because that would be the legacy fight that John Jones is always talking about, like shit like that. We're like, I'm here for the legacy, not for fucking people like Tatiana Suarez, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, and then that's another big thing to note in general here, is that when you have the cream of the crop when it comes to the women's fighters, it's like, because of the weight discrepancy here, like, or the differences in the weight, like, a lot of these women are able to shift weight somewhat easily. It's not 100% across the board that that's the case, but like, there's a lot more potential for girls going over to different divisions and doing the double champ thing, and like, the champion level is even like a step higher, it seems, than the cream of the crop elite a lot of the time. So like, it's a hard thing when it comes to these women's divisions. You just, like, gridlock is just like the name of the game. That's why, as much as it was great, and we'll talk about again in a second here, the flyweights, as much as it was a kind of a long, lengthy process to get Valentina back after the Grasso trilogy. It's like, at least there was some excitement there with Grasso able to shake it up a little bit, because you have these champions that just sit on these belts for so long because no one can fuck with them.
Yeah. And hey, listen, I don't mind it, especially when you're a likable champ and you're very exciting. When you're a dominant champ, you could do it for as long as you want, because like, what else are you supposed to do? Like, you can't blame them for being so good that they make it unfun for like everybody in the weight class,
Sure. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And I mean, really, the impetus falls on these fighters that are farther down in the rankings to go out there and prove that they are next up. That's really all that it comes down to. These
Yeah,
conversations could be just as competitive, or just as lively of conversations as they are in the men's divisions, if these lower ranked fighters in these divisions go out there and prove it. It's the easiest way to
100%.
do it. We will
Yep.
be shutting up real quick when my girl Jillian Robertson comes up and has the best year of all time, which I am anticipating. So early prediction: this is the year of Jillian Robertson. That's coming from Thinker St. James.
All right, I'm excited.
Well, we've referenced it enough. Let's go over to women's flyweight. This Valentina Shevchenko is your champion. Alexa Grasso is number 1. Number 2 is Manon Fiorot. Number 3 is Erin Blanchfield. Number 4 is Macy Barber. And number 5 is Natalia Silva. What are you thinking?
Off rip, I think Valentina, she's at an age where it's gonna be interesting. She's on her little vacation right now, but she better come back and she better have plans, because she's running out of time. So if she's gonna fight Manon, I want to see it. Aaron Blanchfield and Macy Barber, neither of them are on the caliber that I think they need to be champion. Like, Alexa Grasso probably beats them. Um, Natalia Silva, I think she probably has the most potential, because like in Valentina's heyday, like Natalia Silva's, she looks a little close, like she's putting a little performance on there. So it's interesting to see. She might come out here and run the stand-up game for a little bit. It's gonna see how she does against like elite grapplers. Like Grasso might, when it comes to like Grasso and Blanchfield and Barber, it's like those people, they're really good at wrestling. And when somebody holds down Miss Silva, what's it gonna look like? So it's gonna be interesting.
Yeah. I'm really hoping that Manon Fiorot can like break away a little bit farther because she had like a really good like come up and then, it just kind of like it got a little bit shaky there for a minute for her. Like not anything that should be insurmountable though. Like that's
Yeah.
why I feel like the top of this division is like really like prime for there to be a lot of movement because a lot of these fighters have already kind of faced each other and like we've seen some of the shakeout there. So it's like I would like to see some movement in this division for sure. We think that again, it's the theme of the women's divisions is like go out there and prove it. Like I think that there's a lot of potential for like anyone, even outside of the top five, like any of these like higher level fighters in this division. Now, once you get like past Rose Namajunas, it's like gets a little bit shakier, but like anybody like somewhere orbiting like top five like could really go out there and just put a stamp on this thing. Like Erin Blanchfield had a really good come up herself and then, just had a little bit of a shake herself. Like, I mean, there's potential for like any one of these like ladies to really like make a stamp and go out there and prove that they're next up. It's just going to be really, really hard to get past Valentina because she is so dominant and has reproven that.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like you said, proven it. She's reclaimed the belt at such a ripe age, and it's crazy to think, she really defied the fucking sport. I'm excited to see what's next. Like I said, she better have big plans because now that I'm watching, I get to see the end process. Don't do on no bullshit where they want to go out on their shield and then go get fucking knocked out. Like, don't do none of that. No, no. Have it down what you want to do. So.
Sure. Well, and to round it out, probably the most competitive of the women's divisions is women's bantamweight. You got Juliana Pena, who just won the belt. Number one is Raquel Pennington. Number two is Kayla Harrison. Number three is Ketlin Vieira. Number four is Macy Chiasson. And I guess number 5/4 is Norma Dumont. So, yeah, it's a little bit weird how they have the rankings with that. But that we'll go with that. 4 and 5, Macy Chiasson and Norma Dumont.
So I won't talk about Pennington yet. Won't talk about Harrison yet. Won't talk about Ketlin because I don't know too much about her. All I know is she lost to Kayla. I will bring up Macy because I do think she's one of the more interesting ones to note in this weight class. Also to note, Norma Dumont. I didn't know she was ranked fucking fourth, fifth. Like what the hell? Like and honestly, we're getting to in this division like that fourth to eighth to like all these people are tied. Like that could be anybody. Melissa Mullins definitely deserves to be on these rankings, brother. But that's none of my business. I'm just saying it's like this could be anybody. Eileen Perez could be tied for eighth for all we know. Like this division is one of those ones where it's like even the champion Juliana Pena, Jesus Christ, something's got to change here, and a lot of it could be anybody. Like it's just not a it is a deep. I'm trying to think. I don't know. Maybe it isn't deep, but it is because there's a lot of people in the same talent pool, but the skill level is very close. But this is not a very high skilled division in general. Like I don't know.
Well, I mean, at least it's one that's moving. You've got Kayla Harrison in there. I think that she's the one everybody's got their eyes on right now. Of course, Juliana Pena and Raquel Pennington fought for the title, and it was a very close fight. Some people do not agree that that went Juliana Pena's way, but she got the nod, so she is the champ. I mean, it just seems like this is really Kayla's for the taking at the moment. But we have seen, at least in the Ketlin Vieira fight, that Kayla's, she's human as well to an extent. I mean, she still
Right.
won that fight, but it was a lot closer than I thought a lot of people were thinking that it was going to be, myself included. So, yeah, I think that it's really kind of Kayla or bust at the moment when it comes to that. I think Chason, as you said, I'm glad that you're giving her some praise because she's one that sort of kind of worked her way up pretty like stealthily. I think, she's another one of those like that could have a breakout year for herself and really start to make more of a name for herself just based on the way that the rankings currently are. So if she can go out there and get a really nice win, then maybe the conversation changes. But right now, we just got to see if Kayla Harrison can end up pulling it off, or the other, of course, big cloud looming over all of this is whether or not Amanda Nunes decides to return to the sport.
Yeah, I'm really hoping, but I don't know. I can't do. Listen, I know Elite. He loves his girl Juliana Pena. I just can't help but respect if she gets another. If she beats Kayla Harrison, and Kayla Harrison does not drop elbows like she swears she does or swears she will, then I will give Juliana Pena the respect. Like she does deserve it, even though I think Raquel Pennington. Listen, only knockdown in her 16 UFC fights put her on her back and started cycling away. Pena, you are pitiful sometimes, but you are the champ, so I will respect. If you get another defense, good for you.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to Juliana Pena, I think that there's two things that I will note. Number one, she did beat Amanda Nunes, one of the biggest upsets of all time. So you got to give her the respect on that one. And number two, I think that she's good for women's MMA in the sense that she's at least a talker amongst a pool of women who really don't go out and sell themselves all that much. Now, I am way more of a
Oh,
person that
some of
cares.
them down the rankings sell themselves. Don't worry, brother.
Yeah, well, all right. Yeah, that's a little bit of a different story. Okay, fair enough. Good, fair assessment there. But I mean, when it comes to the fight selling aspect, I certainly don't class that very highly. A lot of people love the spectacle aspect of it when it comes to the shit talking and the fight promotion kind of deal. It's certainly not something that is top priority to me, but it does set her apart to an extent because she really is one of the few that actually will get out there and kind of say some controversial stuff. I mean, her and Kayla to a slightly lesser extent. I mean, Raquel Pennington, I don't think that I ever even heard a peep out of her as champion, like in any respect. The only
Well,
thing I
to be
ever,
fair, was
yeah,
she ever like invited to the press conferences? Like, I mean, could you ever imagine they were like, "Oh yeah, okay, so Conor McGregor, Raquel Pennington, and like,
but that's my
no,
point, right? It's like, at least like you have Juliana Pena who gets brought to the table for that reason. So it's like, I think it's good to like, you don't need to be out there like doing any kind of like over the top Colby Covington theatrics, but go and show your personality off a little bit because it does go a decent way with keeping you in the conversation, getting you known by fans and having a little bit more to chew on when it comes to who you are as a fighter compared to some of these other people down the line. I mean, I would say like you're, kind of alluding to there, Eileen Perez has done a lot for herself just with some of her theatrics. I mean, like, she's winning her fights and that's great. And you need to do that always in order to maintain your position. But like at the same time, people know the twerking girl. You like it or
exactly."
hate it, it's just true.
Yep, I
So
agree with you.
yeah, I mean, so I think that the way that I want to end it off is, what do you think about Amanda Nunes coming back? Do you think it's going to happen? Do you think it's not going to happen? What's your call on that?
I mean, in the last fight before, her last fight with Pena, her first fight with Pena where she lost and gave up to the tap, whatever. That was very telling that she was just like, not mentally with it. When she came back and whooped her, um, good. She just needs a little motivation. I saw it. I was like, oh yeah, okay. She just needs a little fire under her. The reasons has to be for her, not for anybody else.
Yeah, yeah,
So
I would agree with that. And it seems like that's where she's at now. Based on what we've been seeing from her, she's been putting out videos, beckoning to Dana, hey, call me, let's get
mhm,
talking again. So it would seem to me that she's has at least some of that fire that you're talking about. She seems like she's excited to get back in there. So if she decides to come back, I mean, I would think that like that's another like aspect of it is not just the fact that she's such a dominant champion and such an amazing competitor. It's the fact that you have Raquel Pennington. I mean, excuse me, you have Juliana Pena, Kayla Harrison, both gunning for her so badly. I mean, like they're both looking past each other to look at her. So it's like if she comes back,
right.
all the eyes are going to be on her. Immediate title shot. Obviously, I don't think that there's any question about that in anybody's mind. And then whatever happens thereafter is going to just have to be based on whatever happens in that fight.
True. It's going to be interesting. I really hope that If anybody's going to be able to do it, it may not be able to be Juliana Pena because she hasn't been able to do that since. Kayla Harrison might be the one that if she gets the belt and she calls out Nunez, she might be able to get her to come back. And that would be great because I want to see live performance Amanda Nunez.
And I want to see Irene Aldana make a huge resurgence because I love her so much, and I thought that she was an amazing trooper for fighting with one of the worst cuts that I've ever seen in my life. I really enjoy her fights and hope that she can turn it all around. So that's another dark horse prediction for Thinker St. James here, is that this is going to be a big breakout year for Irene Aldana. Maybe only wishful thinking, but mark it.
I mean, and then, if we're doing our wishful thinkings, I believe Melissa Mullins is definitely one of the top competitors in this women's division. I don't even know. She might not even be bantamweight, but I believe she is. But either way, that's the last note on that I'll give you.
And fair. And look, again, it goes back to the same point that we've already made. Come out here and put on great performances, get the wins that you need to get. And, you will be in the conversation just by nature of how these divisions are right now. So it doesn't take a lot. It really doesn't take a lot. Get a couple of really solid wins, go out there and, show a little bit of personality, and you're already ahead of the game, like by a good 70%.
100%.
All right. So that is the state of the rankings as we enter 2025. And for the first fight night of the year, finally, it feels like it's been forever since we've been watching some fights, but we've got it coming up this weekend. It is UFC Fight Night, Mackenzie Dern versus Amanda Ribas 2, taking place at the Apex. Go through a couple of these fights and see how we're feeling. But how are you feeling to even just get fights again at all, Chase?
Dude, I could care less what the fights are. Like, I'm just so excited that fights are actually happening. Like the fact that this is gonna be in the Apex, which I know everybody hates the Apex. I get on Twitter every so often and I watch Badger. He'll get on there and talk about we need to leave the Apex, we need to go to more cities, we need to do that. It's like, yo, bro, I love the Apex.
Oh, I do
I
too.
get to watch it in HD in my home, and ESPN loves it. And I'm so happy that the Apex is going to be here for the first fight card of the year. And brother, I'm going to be so locked in. This is going to be good. I don't care
Yeah,
who the fuck it is. Like look,
exactly.
it is two women. They knew we don't give a shit.
Well, this could have some ranking implications here. Mackenzie Dern and Hebos both kind of middling in their division, so some potential there at women's strawweight. But either way, though, I mean, I'm in the same camp as you are. I wanted to give a shout out to the Base Goddess because I was on Instagram recently, and she kind of summed up how I've been feeling too, where she's at the point that she's watching Peruvian mountain women fights, and I'm like, that's kind of where I'm at too. It's I am desperate to see people throwing hands at this point, so cannot wait for this weekend to roll around. And so, running this down just a little bit, as we said, you've got Mackenzie Dern and Amanda Ribas in the main event. Mackenzie Dern, so spotty, just in general, it feels like, but Ribas as well, kind of spotty. So I think that this is actually good matchmaking. How do you think this is going to play out?
Well, the fact that you said that this is a fight that could have title
Oh,
implications,
no,
it's
no, no,
like,
not title, ranking implications.
okay, okay. Well, yeah, I was gonna say, bring. I mean, even still, it's like just recently, one of the first cards that I watched live. I think it was like one of the first clips that I made on TikTok. Is like I watched Mackenzie Dern get laid out by, I believe it was Andrade. Um, that's not very good because we were just talking about Andrade being on her way out. So, but
Yeah, I mean, it goes back exactly again. I mean, I sound like a broken record here, but I mean, these are exactly the fighters that we're talking about when we're talking about middling in these divisions. It sucks too because I really like Amanda Ribas. She's the manic pixie dream girl of the strawweight division. I would say she's got a great personality. I like her a lot. But I
yeah.
also Mackenzie Dern like her a lot for other reasons too. Either one of these women could be big fan favorites for various reasons. It's just that both of them are rather spotty as to when they're going to win. I mean, there was the version of Mackenzie Dern. I thought we had really turned a corner in the Angela Hill fight. I talk about that a lot because that fight she was so on. It was they were calling it new mythical fighter Mackenzie Dern post divorce. Dern, like that was where she was at, and she was dominant as hell in that fight. And I was like, oh man, we might really be seeing like the evolution of Mackenzie Dern. Then in the next fight, she just comes back out and looks exactly the same as she had been before. So I'm just like, I'm really getting tired of putting any kind of faith in either one of these women, unfortunately. Ribas, I would like to win. I feel a little bit slighted that I've been denied an Amanda Ribas fight in person before and twice now. I believe she was supposed to fight in Tampa, and actually this fight was supposed to be in Tampa. We were denied this fight altogether.
Oh.
So, but yeah, so that's it's going to be good to see this fight actually finally taking place, and I hope that Amanda Ribas is able to pull it off. What's going on with your audio?
I think I lost sound on you. I'm sorry. Hold on.
Stand by for a little technical.
Sorry, give me one
No,
second.
take your time, brother. Whether you can hear me or not, I'll just keep talking. So, but that's really all I really had to say about that fight anyway. I'd like to see Amanda Ribas take it, just because I like her as a person. Mackenzie Dern could take it, one way or another. And we lost Chase altogether. Maybe he'll rejoin us. Either way, let's move on. Santiago Ponzinibbio versus Carlston Harris, as Chase rejoins here.
My apologies. I don't know what happened there. Yeah, I froze up. I couldn't.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can certainly hear you. As long as you can hear me.
I can. All right, we're good. You didn't miss much. We're just moving on to Santiago Ponzinibbio and Carlston Harris here. What are you feeling about this fight? I mean, it just seems like like the same things that we said about Santiago Ponzinibbio versus Muslim Salikov yet again, but that turned out to be somewhat of a competitive fight. So, and then Muslim Salikov, of course, just got a beautiful knockout. So maybe there's more potential here than we're giving it credit for.
I'm gonna try to go 1 for 2, and I got the Muslim Salikov one wrong, but Santiago Ponzinibbio, nah, it's not it, man. He's flaring out after this one.
These records on both sides are kind of wild anyway. I mean, Santiago Ponzinibbio, this is going to be going into his 39th fight. And then Carlston Harris is 19-6. So, I mean, his 26th fight. And I mean, Harris has been a guy that's, kind of surprised me at times. He fights out of, why am I blanking? Not, Guyana. He fights out of Guyana, which is, I like the representation there. But it's just like kind of, it's like you were saying. I mean, this is not like the world-ending first card of the year kind of deal to start things off. This is a co-main, might be a little bit strange of a choice, but hopefully there's more here than on paper, is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, with Santiago, people before that last fight, everybody said like he was the what if, he was the once been what if. So I'm ready to see it one day. Maybe they'll prove me wrong.
Yeah. It's Ponzinibbio, of course, was a guy who was inactive for a very long time. Again, I think that this is good matchmaking, even if it's not the most exciting fight. Hopefully, it'll be something worth watching. And we were talking about the Muslim Salikov fight. That turned out to be a fight, so maybe this will be one step above that.
True. We'll see.
All right, moving on down the line here. Cesar Almeida versus Abdul Razak Alhassan. I was very surprised that Alhassan is a dog in this fight. Granted, both of them are coming off of weird circumstances in their last fight. Cesar Almeida had the weird refereeing situation. Abdul Razak Alhassan had the oddness with Cody Brundage, if I'm not mistaken, or did he have a fight after that?
Nope, that was it.
That was the last one. Okay, so yeah, so there you go. So two odd situations. I like this fight. I think that this has a lot of potential to be a banger here. I don't think that Cesar Almeida has really shown me anything that gives me any indication that he should be a -310 personally. So I'm going with the dog on this one.
I think this is more because, like, remember, Cesar Almeida is a glory kickboxer. Like, I think they're going with technique over haymaking ability because Abdul might go in there and just throw some bombs, and yeah, he normally knocks people out and knocks them down, and maybe makes stupid decisions and elbows him in the back of the head and stuff like that. But Cesar Almeida might just put on a masterclass performance on the feet.
Could be. It could be. If Abdul Razak Al Hassan was put into the position of allowing himself to be careless enough to get to where he got with Cody Brundage, then that kind of makes me question his fight IQ to an extent.
Right.
So perhaps
You've already done that before with him.
Right. So I mean, there is potential for if he's able to overcome some of that, maybe he's wised up a little bit, fights a little bit smarter, then I think that he should be able to get his way. And the Glory Kickboxing accolade does not really hold all that much weight, in my opinion. If he just go out there and fight smart, Al Hassan, that's really what you got to do. And Cesar Almeida, like. Again, I was not super impressed with his last performance, so I'm sticking with my guns on this one.
All right, I'm ready to hear. I got my own dogs on the list here, so I'm
right.
ready for it.
Burning through. I feel you. I mean, let's move on to the fight. I think that a lot of people have more opinions about. This is, I would say, probably the people's main event here. Chris Curtis versus Roman Kopylov. What are you thinking?
I don't know what I believe is going to happen here, but I have said before, and I do stand by it. Chris Curtis is strictly a boxer when it comes time. Like even when he does throw in the kicks, they're more like pity patter kicks just to get the point off, just to set up a combination kind of deal. Kopylov has been showing in his most recent matchups that he can wrestle when he wants to. So if he gets Chris Curtis down and he's more relentless with it, I think that'll sway the judging, and Chris Curtis won't be able to get his game off of just standing and boxing and staying on the outside, and then getting inside to the into the pocket. But Kopylov, we don't know. He might go back to trying to stand up and throw those crazy kicks that he used to have. Not crazy in the sense of styles, but like powerful crazy.
Sure.
So he might hurt Chris Curtis early with some leg kicks. Or Chris Curtis might just box him up for 3 rounds. I don't know. It's a very hard one to judge. It really is.
Yeah, I like this fight a lot, actually. Of course, Curtis coming off of an injury that he was sidelined with after the Brandon Allen fight. Hopefully, that's going to be 100% shored up. I was not aware that Roman Kopylov was 6 foot. I mean, is that accurate, you thinking, or is that pumped numbers? He never like stood out to me as like a super tall guy for
I would say he's pretty big.
Yeah. So, okay, fair enough then. So, decent size advantage there. Curtis is a powerful guy when he's throwing accurately, but Kopylov is the same. So, I mean, like, I would say that Kopylov is probably a little bit more well-rounded. Like you were saying, Curtis is going to be throwing a lot of shots. He pumps the jab pretty well. So there is some potential for Kopylov to get caught there. I'm leaning towards Kopylov on this one personally. He is a decent favorite as far as the odds go, but Curtis certainly has the potential to pull off the upset there. I mean, I would not put it past Chris Curtis to go out there and be able to get this win. I think that he'd probably really like to get a win after taking the loss that he just took.
I do think it is very interesting how big of a favorite Roman is. I think that's these lines are going to tighten up as we get closer to the fights. It's going to be more of a coin flip, I'd say.
I would agree with you entirely on that one for sure. Yeah, these they're already not super crazy differentials anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, come fight day, you're going to be seeing some pretty close pick'ems, I would say. This being among them. So yeah, I mean, I'm going Kopylov on that one, and we'll see what ends up happening there. Christian Rodriguez versus Austin Bashi. Should I know Austin Bashi? The name did not
Contender Series.
It was a Contender Series. Yeah, I thought that's what it seemed like to me. But
Yes.
yeah. I mean, I obviously saw him on the Contender Series if he just fought this last round of it, but it wasn't one that was immediately jumping out. The Contender Series is a little bit hard to keep track of because it's like new guys coming in, so you don't know who to necessarily.
Yeah, I remember the names. I don't necessarily remember what they fight like sometimes.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of where I was at. Like it sounded somewhat familiar, but I didn't really remember too much about him. So, but going up against Christian Rodriguez, of course, somewhat well known for the man who
Tap like chicken.
Yeah. I mean that certainly is one of the things I was going to say. That he got he was the winner of that derailed the hype train of Raul Rosas back in the
Three
day there.
big prospects: Dolgarian, Simon, and Rosas.
Yeah. So what are you thinking?
I actually think this is a live dog right here. I think this is another one where the lines might tighten up because Christian Rodriguez is being counted out a lot. Like he did fuck up his last fight, but like derailing prospects is what this fucking dude does. Like, come on, like plus 218. Like I gotta get 215, whatever it says. I gotta get my money down. Like, holy shit.
There you go. Yeah, it is true. I mean, and I remember you having some pretty strong, harsh words for him in some of those
Yeah,
performances there. So, I mean, uh, the judges seem to like him as well, I guess is the is the takeaway from that. If you want to be
true.
favorable, So, yeah, I mean, I'd say that that's accurate. Of course, we talk about guys coming into the league anyway, where it's coming off of the Contender Series, coming into the actual UFC. It's night and day difference. The Contender Series is not the end of the road; it is just the beginning. So you see a lot of these guys come in and take an L in their first fight. It's very very common. It's actually, I would think, a lot more uncommon. I was just watching Fight Show not too long ago. Shout out to the guys over there. They were going over some of the stats from Fight Junkies, who do like a really nice stat breakdown at the end of the year. And I forgot what the actual percentage was, but it was like somewhere in the, I want to say like the 40% range of fighters coming into the organization getting victories in their debuts. So that should tell you something just off the bat, that a lot of the times coming in, it's a really tough first fight. So if Austin Bashi can come out here and make it happen, then he might be setting himself up for making a name for himself. But live dog does seem to be what my gut would be going with as well.
Yeah, 100%. This one is a sleeper right here.
Yeah, I mean, you thinking that this is going to be a lot better than it's looking on paper, or why you say that?
I think Medic is just a dog. I think he'll come out here and Puda Haley is one of these guys. You know, Hawaiians. They don't go down too easy. So I think it'll be one of these performances where Medic is just breaking his hands on the dude's head. So
Yeah, this is Punahele Soriano versus Uros Medic. And yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I thought that this was another one of the fights that is one to watch out for. Soriano's a guy that like he I wanted to kind of put more faith in him earlier on, and there's been a snag or two, I want to say, but like not somebody that needs to be like completely counted out. Yeah, I mean, you see in his last five, he's 2-3 in his last five, so it's not great recently for him, but like I want to believe that there's still something there with him. The Islander spirit is always very strong in the fight game. But like you said, Chase, Uros Medic is he is a dog for real. It's a good point. So I'd be leaning towards him. He's a decent sized favorite. If this line tightens up, you might even want to wait a little bit and get some tighter money on it, because I would think that as the lines close up, it's you could probably get him for even money.
yeah, true.
So yeah, Uros Medic I think is hopefully going to put on a pretty decent show there. We'll see. Moving on down the line, you got Jose Johnson versus Felipe Buenas. I know Buenas from being knocked out by Josh Van, and Jose Johnson is tall for nothing. So this is a fight that I was not super keen on. what what are you thinking, Chase?
I was thinking this is a good favorite pick because Vegas sometimes they know all. Like you said, Felipe. I thought his name was Buns, so that's refreshing to hear that it is not. But yeah, I'm hoping Jose Johnson comes out here and proves you wrong. Favorite for a reason, and he's gonna come out here and win.
He is a 6-foot flyweight,
Yeah.
for anybody who's just listening. To keep it in perspective, he is very tall for his division. I did not think in any of the fights that I've seen him that he uses his length very effectively. He's been less than impressive to me. So I would think that there's potential in the dog there. I mean, if you're going off of the last couple,
Nah,
uh,
that dude got beat up by Josh Van pretty bad, man.
he
I'm not
did.
gonna lie,
Yeah.
dude.
It's true, and his other wins are not super impressive either. So I mean, yeah, and then also losing to Jussier Formiga. So it's yeah, maybe Johnson is getting a little bit of a layup here, perhaps.
I mean,
But
he is 16-9, dude. Jesus Christ, Jose Johnson sucks. Like, fuck.
I'm saying, a lot of these records, like we've been going through them, haven't really been touching on them, but you got a lot of guys with like a lot of experience, but just still somewhat middlers. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like these dudes who just kind of languish hanging around. It's like either break out and become like the fighter that you like are meant to be, or this is what you're going to end up being. You're going to be the featured prelim on the sleeper fight night to begin the year kind of deal.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
hopefully this fight turns out to be more entertaining than we're talking it up as right now. But I
And
just don't have faith in
hopefully
it.
Buns, hopefully he don't show up on the first card of the year again and get knocked out. Because like, bro, he showed up on Ankalaev and Walker. That was the first card last year. Got beat up by Josh Van. I made a video on it. Dude, don't let it happen again.
Bro, if you get knocked out by Jose Johnson, then that's a real telling thing in this sport, in my opinion. So yeah, I very much hope that does not happen for his sake.
I will remember this live dog conversation if Buenos wins, though.
Okay, yeah, no, hey, hold me to it. I will eat my words if it turns out to be a complete walkthrough. But this fight right here, I think, is another one that
complete walkthrough right here.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I think that this should have been way higher up on the card. Personally, this is a great matchup based on what we've seen out of these. Well, I mean, it has potential to be a good matchup for at least one of them. This is Marco Tulio versus Ihor Potieria. Of course, Potieria has had some oddness. He was in the fight with Cesar Almeida that we were talking about with the odd refereeing, and even still, regardless of the refereeing, he was getting pretty well handled in that fight at times. And Marco Tulio, however, looked really, really nice on the Contender Series. Talking about Contender Series guys, that's a name that I remember. He was the dude who I believe got the spinning back kick body knockout, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh yeah, I think you are right. Yeah, he was pretty solid.
So,
I think this will be easy for him to get Ihor up out of here. Ihor's lost a lot. We've seen his crazy tattoo enough. Like I'm about done with it.
Yeah, I would say so too. I would really like this to be a big showing for Tulio. He's just one of those guys that after seeing him on the Contender Series, I just kind of felt like I had that spark. You know what I mean? I get that
Right.
little, that little twitch in my brain that says this is a guy to watch out for. Granted, that has not always been correct. I mean that has been proven wrong at times for sure. We'll see if he can live up to that. But I would like to believe that he can come out here and put on a good show against Ihor, who has been spotty at best.
Yeah.
Thiago Moises versus Trey Ogden. This is one I don't really care a whole hell of a lot about. It'd be nice to see Trey Ogden go out there and get another sub. He is good for those.
I think this will be an easy favorite pick for Thiago Moises. He's normally a good fighter. He had a really good matchup. I believe it was against BSD. I feel like that's the one we always reference. And like he looked really good and then got finished or whatever. And then he also finished somebody with leg kicks. So I feel like the potential's there, but he just has to show up. His last matchup, he didn't show out, and like he really let us down. But I feel like it was against Trey Ogden. Why do I feel like these dudes have fought already? Like this is.
If it wasn't, it was like a fighter like him. It feels
Oh,
like
Ludovic Klein. Yeah, he did get fucked up by Ludovic Klein.
Yeah, I mean, and like it's again we were talking about the records here. It's like 18-8 versus 18-6. These are just, it's like, even if it's just make it entertaining, please, because it's like, I'm not inspired by it, and I want to be. Like, I certainly, I want to be giving each one of these fights like the the credit that they deserve. But this one, it's just like either Thiago Moises probably by decision or Trey Ogden by submission would be my gut feeling.
Yeah, I'm with it.
So one of two fights on this card that got switched up here. Preston Parsons is taking on Jacoby Smith now. Who's he supposed to fight?
This was supposed to be Ashmouz.
Oh, Yanal Ashmouz.
No,
yes.
wait, no, welterweight. No, this isn't. This isn't on. Oh, this was supposed to be Andreas. I'm sorry, Gustafson.
Oh, yes, yes, that is the
Sorry.
very unfortunate deal. Talking about Contender Series guys that we've had our eyes on, or at least me, I was very high on Andreas Gustafsson, who did some really, really nice work with some close range inside elbows on the Contender Series that I thought were pretty inspiring. Definitely think a lot more fighters should be taking a note out of his book when it comes to the way that he was handling clinch situations. He apparently broke a bone in his neck, if I am not mistaken. I think Chase showed that to me in the Discord, and we were all wondering exactly what that injury is. So hopefully he's not going to be out of commission for too long. Hopefully it's not a bad injury. If it happened in training camp, theoretically it won't be something that's going to be too devastating. You never want to hear about a neck injury in any circumstance, but
Right.
regardless, he is out and Jacoby Smith is in. So Jacoby Smith, 9-0. I mean, another
Another
contender.
Contender Series guy. Yeah.
Yeah, just going to say that. So, Preston Parsons has been a guy that's gotten some decent wins at times. At other times, not so much. Is Preston Parsons is the guy who got slam knocked out on the side of his head? If no, maybe not. Maybe I'm mistaking him. But either way, I mean, you see the record for Preston Parsons. He's another guy that's 2-3 in his last 5. So, he's done some decent work at times, but not super inspiring. Could this be another breakout for a Contender Series guy?
We will see because probably they're pretty decent. Like I said, those guys are really fun to watch, especially when that show comes on. We got to wait a whole year for it. That's crazy. But anyway,
I know. I love the Contender Series so much. We're getting closer every day, though. And again, speaking of Contender Series, next up is Ernesta Karashate versus Nicole Cagliari. Cagliari, another Contender Series fighter.
and I'll actually correct you. It's Keretske is how they say it.
Keretske? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
My bad. I thought I had
yeah.
that right. I guess I am.
Ernesta is a beast, man. My girl coming in at a big. It was actually a really big favorite, like a lot more than this a couple of days ago when I was checking. She's really ready to kill. I'm excited to see her, man. I swear, she's good.
Yeah, and I would say that the favorite's probably going to take it more so because Nicole Cagliari on the Contender Series, she certainly did win her fight, but it was mainly because her opponent, if I'm not mistaken, she fought the Canadian girl whose name is escaping me, but she just essentially gave her the armbar. If I'm
Yeah,
remembering that fight, it was one of those ones that sticks out in my mind because I was like, you go back to the watch along, you see, I'm like, she just gave that fight away. She sold that thing like 100%. It was like just kind of went right down into the guard, and there it was for the taking. So Cagliari did not show any like amazing ability that would give me reason to think that she's one of these like fighters that's going to have a big breakout performance. And if Ernesta Kurtske is the pick that Chase is going with, then I'm tending to agree.
I think you also got to note this too. Ernesta's a striker, and she's 5'9". 5'9" for women. She might be 6 foot. Like, and Nicole is 5'3". I mean, on paper, that's a big advantage, but like in reality, it's probably a lot more than we expect. It's gonna look a lot, but in all fairness, though, Ernesta doesn't have the longest arms. I will say that. Like, you can look at the reach; it's still different, but you'll be able to tell. Like, she's tall, but her arms are kind of a little stubby. But I do think she's gonna box her up. I think this will be very easy for her. Easy win.
All right. Well, you heard it here first. There's your money. Moving on. We've got Magomed Gaziagulov. Wait, no, not Gaziagulov. Magomed Gazi Asulov.
Sulov.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Magomed Gaziasulov versus Bruno Lopez. Bruno, yet another Contender Series fighter. I'm glad that we're getting so many Contender Series fighters early in the year, man. It gives them good runway to set themselves up later on in the year if they start pulling off some decent performances. But either way, what are you thinking about this fight?
This one I don't know too much about other than Magomed. You should just put money on him to win by sub or decision. That's the only thing I know.
Yeah, I mean, Bruno Lopez, if I'm not mistaken, I was not super impressed on the Contender Series. I want to say he's not one that like stuck out in my mind. I'd have to go back and rewatch, but Gadziasulov is 9-0. Lopez is 13-1. Coming in, just like we already laid out for these Contender Series fighters, I would think that this is probably going to be somewhat of a rude awakening for Lopez on his first outing. But yeah, we'll see on that one.
Yeah. This one right here.
Yeah, I was going to say one that we both have a little bit more of an understanding about is our girl Fatima Klein coming back for her second time in the UFC, going up against Victoria Dudikova.
Massive favorite for Klein. Holy shit.
God, I hope that she is able to live up to it, because she did so great in that first fight. I mean, not so great. She did not win the fight, but you saw why she got shotted to where she did in that fight. Like, she came in on short notice against a much more experienced competitor, a much more experienced opponent, and really did hold her own in her fight. So there, I think that after that fight, I believe on this very show, we were talking about how she had nothing to be ashamed of in that fight. And against Victoria Dudikova, who I do like her, but she's one that I think probably could get handled pretty easily under the right circumstances. This should probably be the right circumstances.
Yeah, I'm excited for this one, especially that it happens in the second fight. Ooh, yeah, it's gonna be good.
I know, good way to
winning money early.
Yeah, getting this started off. I mean, she's a huge favorite, as Chase said. She's a minus 850, so maybe not that much money to be had if you're putting a straight bet down, but certainly a good parlay pick for sure there.
Sub or decision, guys. If you're listening right now, sub or decision is the easiest money in the world when it comes to this promotion right here, because these people don't finish on the feet.
And also, I mean, when it comes to Fatima Klein specifically, like watching back some of her fights pre-UFC, like she does have some decent striking, but her bread and butter is definitely more on the ground, I would say.
Yeah.
So, all right, and to round this whole thing out, Nurulo Aliyev versus Joe Selecki. Aliyev,
this is the other villain fight. This is
yes.
This will be short notice for Aliyev is stepping in for Ashmuz. I forget his first name.
Yeah, Yanal Ashmuz. Nurulo Aliyev is stepping in for Yanal Ashmuz, taking on Joe Selecki. Selecki, again, just kind of one of these guys that's around. I mean, I'd like to see a really cool, is this his debut for Aliyev?
They don't have a picture for him, maybe.
Yeah, I'm thinking that it might be. Oh, no, okay. Oh, he fought on a fight night couple, or I guess
2
almost
years
a
ago.
year ago. Yeah. Oh, 2 years ago. Yeah, you're right. Jeez.
Oh, it is 2025. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, coming up on 2 years. So, been a little inactive. I guess he was a Contender Series guy before that. He's, not jumping out at me, but he did get his, he got a knockout on the Contender Series and got a decision win on the fight night. So
knocked out John Wick. That's crazy.
Knocked out John Wick. How about it? I mean, if you get a win over John Wick, I mean, I think that you're automatically taking any fight in the UFC, right?
I'm bringing that one to the predictions video, boys. Let me do that.
Let's go. Yeah, good to be seeing you back to doing predictions again finally after all this time off too. But yeah, so I mean, I think that if they got they don't have odds up for this fight, I guess, because of the short notice nature of it. But the guy is 9-0 going up against Joe Selecki, who is 13-5. I would say that Aliyev should probably be your choice, unless Selecki's got some ace up his sleeve that I'm not aware of.
Doubtful. Yeah, no, he's not very impressive.
Yeah, exactly. So there's your preview of the upcoming fight night. Cannot wait to get back to it. Of course, myself and the Vitz King will be back doing our watch-alongs over on the Yama channel. That is youtube.com/@Yama Show. And Chase does those watch-alongs as well. And Chase, I know that you can tell them where they can find you.
They can find me watching all the UFC cards this year, having a great time with stellar internet connection on youtube.com/@CPSmalls, and I will be there waiting for you to sell you a shirt.
Exactly. Absolutely. Good point to bring up as well for everybody who has been supporting this show. The support has been fantastic and we really, really appreciate it. If you are interested in taking your support one level above, you can reach out to the homie Chase Parton on Twitter or Instagram for a last week's fights t-shirt. The man is making them himself. They look great. They feel great. There you go. Looking sharp. You will be the best dressed person in your city if you wear a last week's fight shirt. That's just a fact. I don't make the rules. So hit up Chase for a shirt. We appreciate the support in that regard as well. Of course, he is on Twitter and Instagram at his handles. So what are those, Chase? Go ahead and tell him.
Twitter is Creative Parton, Partin, and then Instagram is the same thing, CP Smalls. Yeah.
There you go. Hit him up for a shirt. I am at Yama Show on all social media as well. We will be back next Monday to go over every single fight that we just previewed here. So link back up with us on Monday. We will be talking about all of that. And in the meantime, hopefully be getting some more video content out. A couple of new videos out on the channel currently. I'm playing around with content styles and formats and stuff. If you like the current crop of content on the channel, do let me know. That's again, youtube.com/@YamaShow. So we will catch up with you again on Monday, everybody. Have a great rest of your week. Enjoy the fights. Hope to see you during the watch alongs. And most of all, baby, fight on.